Well, hello everyone.
Hello.
Welcome to Fractured Justice.
The fact that we are back here again is, I said this last week, I'll say it again. There are more and more stories coming out each and every week, and we're going to bring those stories to you tonight. So,
What do you have for us this week?
what do I have for us this week? Well, I thought you were going to read our nice little introduction, but that's okay.
I've gotten rid of that.
You've gotten rid of the introduction. All right. Well, hello everyone. Fractured Justice. Why are we calling this Fractured Justice? Because sometimes there are just stories that are so horrific that justice, depending on what our justice system does and what actually happens, something. I'm at the point that each week that I research some of these stories, I can't believe it. I'm just, and the fact that it keeps happening week after week, that we keep getting more and more stories, it makes me wonder, like, what is going on with everything? Is the water contaminated or something? But I'm not trying to laugh. I'm not making light of it. I mean, these stories are truly horrific. So, as always, this is a warning to everybody. Your discretion is advised. The things that we are going to be talking about are highly disturbing, and we are going to be talking about some cases that happened right now in the news, as well as some cases that happened in the past as well. And it's up to you to determine whether justice has been fractured or not, or how you decide to take the facts based on the outcome of these cases. So I guess I'm going to share my screen and we'll bring up some of our first stories. So now, last week, one of the things that we discussed was the fact that July 4th is coming around. And I almost wanted to say that every year you say the warnings, you say this and that there are things that's going to happen on July 4th. But when the holiday actually passes, I think you hear all the stories that did happen. It's sad and it's tragic. So this one is not necessarily a story of July 4th, but it had to do with little 2-year-old Nadzikian Olebs. What happened was his parents, those are his two parents, his mother and father, got out of the car at a Walmart parking lot just so that they could buy fireworks for July 4th. What they didn't know is while they were out getting the fireworks, they were literally a couple of feet away from the car. Somehow, their little 2-year-old got a hold of their gun and accidentally killed himself and shot himself inside the car. So, of course, there are so many questions. Like, the first question is, how did he get a hold of the gun? Where are the gun? Were they allowed to keep a gun in the car? And I mean, because obviously this is a brand new case, we don't have all the details, we don't know anything. I mean, that's one thing that's a downside to some of these cases is as time progresses, more and more information will come out. But it's like this poor 2-year-old boy, parents just got out of the car for a minute just to buy fireworks because they're going to celebrate a big celebration, and their 2-year-old son gets a hold of their gun and kills himself. I mean, you can't even say that. Oh, go ahead.
So many questions on this case. Mm-hmm. Like, first off, why did they both need to be out of the car for this?
Well, I guess, I mean, if you think about it from the excitement, you're going to the fireworks stand, it's exciting, you want to pick out what kind you want to see what they have. And I mean, these things, I mean, okay, this happened in Georgia, but even here in Texas, it's always a little tiny little box stand that's usually at the end of a parking lot or like at the end of a roadway or something like that. You literally pull up in front of it, you get out of the car, you talk with the guy, you wheel and deal, you buy your fireworks, then you throw it in the car and you drive off. So even when they say that the parents were just a few feet away, are you going to get them with being neglectful for the son? I mean, and yes, they're going to get some sort of child neglect, but in other words, is that a bad thing that they just left their son in the car for a few minutes? Because that's all they did. I mean, they were right there. They were within a couple of feet.
It's bad that they left their firearm unattended.
That's what the issue is an unattended firearm. Because the question is, where did they put it? Did they have it just thrown on the seat? Was it in the glove compartment? Was it in just like the sidearm of the window? I mean, where did they keep this firearm that their 2-year-old son, within a matter of minutes, easily picked it up and shot himself? That's what makes it a strange case. And the fact is, a two-year-old boy lost his life. And of course, I mean, they are probably going to be a lot of charges against the parents, any number of things. It's too early to determine at this time. But this little boy lost his life because they decided, because they kept a gun in the car and he had access to it. So the investigators are trying to figure out how the boy got a hold of the gun. Witnesses say he was sitting in the front seat of the car with the gun possibly on the side of the door. At this stage, it is unclear if the boy's parents will face charges over the death. But there's a picture of the fireworks stand. Little tiny fireworks stand right in the middle of the parking lot. You go up, like I said, you deal with the guy saying, I want this, 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 this. You pay for him. You go back in the car. You drive away.
Again, why did both parents need to be out of the car dealing with this?
That's true.
When everything is right there to be viewed.
And technically, they probably could have put the little boy there too. I mean, hold him by the hand. Just unless he was in a car seat, it doesn't specify. I'm going to assume if the boy is in the car, he should be tied up and strapped into a car seat. So that's another question: is how did a 2-year-old get out of his car seat, get a hold of a gun, and shoot himself? Unless that's another story that he wasn't in a car seat at all. So that could be a whole mess of other charges and issues, because at that age, he should be in a car seat.
It's just sad. This whole thing could have been avoided.
Mm-hmm. And of course, it had to happen directly before July 4th. Now, later on, we have another firework discussion, but we'll bring that up later on because that's something that's a different issue. But like I said, during this time, there are a lot of tragedies that happen involving holidays, and it's kind of sad that every holiday you read more and more of these type of stories.
But whether they face charges or not, these parents' lives are pretty much screwed.
Yeah, they lost their son. They're probably going to be held accountable in some fashion. And I mean, like I said, it's too early in the investigation to know whether they legally were able to have the firearm. Did they have the right licenses or registrations for the gun? Because some states you have to have like a concealing license or something like that. So we don't even know the details in regards to the situation with the gun yet. But these are up to the minute cases that we do introduce to you, and when we do receive more information, we will update as the case progresses. But in some of these cases, either it gets buried that there'll be no mention of it in the mainstream media, or once again, it just takes so long that it gets to the point where it becomes obsolete, that this particular case is just going to be overshadowed by a different case. So poor little 2-year-old, and it's kind of sad. And I mean, he was a cute kid. He looked happy. Well, actually, no. In this one, he looks mean, but you know what I mean. It looked like a happy family, and now this family is completely destroyed, and the kid lost his life. So, yes, your dogs in the back they want to be part of the show too.
Sorry, they're playing rather loudly.
Yes. So the next story I have, and this is a horrific story, and it's one of those stories that I know when it's a crime of passion, you direct your anger at a specific person, but it's when somebody else gets injured because of the anger you have won. So in this story, a mom dies while holding a 1-year-old baby after her daughter's ex-boyfriend approached her while standing on the front porch of her home to shoot her in the head. He was 16 years old, later identified as Eli. They don't give the last name or anything like that. He was taken into custody and later charged with murder and other charges in connection with the death of 38-year-old Eulalia. Police said that the boy shot the woman in the head while she was holding the 1-year-old baby. Luckily, the baby was not harmed, but the 38-year-old mom was suffering from life-threatening injuries when the officers arrived on the scene. Authorities discovered that the 16-year-old reportedly shot the mother because he was angry her daughter left him. So this is the daughter's ex-boyfriend. Authorities believe he shot her to get his revenge. Police said that the victim's daughter was in a relationship with the shooter for nearly 10 months and left him 2 months before he shot her mom in the head. During an interview with the investigators, the 16-year-old reportedly confessed to shooting the mother. He also told investigators that he planned on killing one of his ex-family members because he wanted to retaliate against her for ending their relationship. After he shot the woman to death, he ran away from home. So this is just intense anger issues with an ex-boyfriend, and instead of focusing his anger on the person he loves, he turned to the mother instead. And he was going to kill one of his ex-family members in addition to that. So this is just someone with way too much rage, possibly some sort of imbalance that does not determine right from wrong at all, because he said he wanted to kill other members too.
He spent 2 months premeditating this?
Yeah.
So it's not even just a crime of passion. This is...
Yeah, I probably shouldn't have said crime of passion. What I mean is, like, he had a relationship. It was a love relationship with the person that he was with. And through his rage, jealousy, anger, he goes and shoots the mom in the head and kills her instantly while she's holding a 1-year-old. And I mean, the 1-year-old is young enough that won't remember it, but I mean, even as a child, to find that out later on in your life, that I'm going to assume that this is the grandmother but you're holding a baby, and that baby's going to grow up saying, well, that's what happened to my mom, my grandma. They got shot while they were holding me. I mean, that'll just mess up a kid as well. So
it's just tragic. And for what?
And
high school romance?
It's interesting you say high school romance, because, yeah, you're only 16 years old. He had his whole life. They both, I mean, the daughter, I mean, I'm curious. They don't mention, like, names or anything like that, but the daughter has to now live her life knowing that her ex-boyfriend killed her mom. Her mom is now dead. She, at one point, I mean, I always said this as well. There's a very thin line between love and hate. I mean, it's true. It's like your love for somebody can instantly turn to anger, hate, and rage. And obviously, they were in a relationship for 10 months. They broke it off for whatever reason. And I mean, possibly there was valid reasons for this, but he couldn't take the fact that they broke it up, and he wanted to get his revenge. And to do that, he retaliated against the mom and killed her on the spot.
Even if the mother was the cause of them to break up, that still doesn't mean that she should have lost her life over this.
That's right. I mean, in any of this, nobody should lose their life. And I don't understand why. I mean, I almost want to say, what compels a person to think that that's the best way to exact revenge, is to kill somebody, to take matters in your home and take another person's life. That's definitely not going to get the one you love back at all. It's like there's no chance of that ever. But it's like, you're really going to destroy so many lives, even your own life. I mean, he basically destroyed his own life, because obviously there's going to be consequences for this. It's still too early to know what those consequences will be, but And his family members need to now be fearful as well, because he wanted to kill one of his ex-family members, the one that he ran away from. So now they need to be concerned, okay, if he goes to jail or prison or something like that and he decides to come out, is he then going to come retaliate against the family members as well and do something in the future? We don't know.
It's unclear.
It's unclear. But I mean, it's a very sad story. I mean, I want to say all these stories, when I research these stories, they're all tragic stories. And the fact is that more and more just keep popping up is really a shame. Okay, so I guess we're going to the next one. This one is an old story. I like, not that I like, but I want to introduce old stories too, because like I said, the question we have here is, was justice fractured? And in some cases with our stories, there's that, what's the word I'm looking for? It's that justice that happens outside the legal cases that makes it like case closed sort of thing. But sometimes with legal challenges, justice can be fractured. And this is one of the cases. And I wanted to bring this story up because it is the 10th anniversary of this particular story. But the story is of Johnny Frank Garrett. It's a chilling reminder of the flaws in our justice system in Texas. Johnny was 17 years old. It was Halloween night in 1981. There was a nun by the name of Sister Teresa Benz who was brutally murdered in Amarillo, Texas. The crime was awful, and the community demanded justice. The police were under massive pressure to solve this case quickly, and unfortunately, they set their sights on Johnny, who, remember, at that time was only 17 years old. He was a local teenager with a troubled past, but there was no evidence linking him to the crime scene. Despite the lack of physical evidence, Johnny was convicted based on flaky testimonies and questionable evidence. In 1992, at the age of 28, so at this point he already spent 11 years of his life in jail, Johnny Frank was executed by lethal injection. He proclaimed his innocence straight up until his last breath. The twist in Johnny's story happens years after his execution. The advances in DNA technology revealed that the evidence used to convict him did not match his DNA. This discovery sparked much outrage and sorrow, and it also highlights the irreversible mistake made by the Texas justice system. So this is a horrific story because up until, I mean, it's always innocent until proven guilty. And he was proven guilty in a court of law. But the fact was, he was innocent the entire time. The other fact is, there is still a killer out there that did commit this crime that was free to go. So somebody actually did the crime and killed Sister Daddy Events. But yet, Johnny was the one that took the fall for it. And he lost his life, even after spending 11 years in prison. Now, there is more to the story. They made a documentary on this. The case attracted so much attention that they released a movie called Johnny Frank Garrett's Last Word. It was released in 2017, and I believe you could see this on Netflix. If not, I think Amazon Prime has it. But you could see this documentary. It talks about the case involving it, talks about his last words. It also talks about the fact that he was really innocent the entire time, but he still lost his life on it. And the question that I have is, even after the fact that, okay, now you know that this guy is innocent, what happens now? What do? They reopen the case and they start looking for the real person?
Hopefully, but what they would have done is compare the DNA that they did find to
Their
everyone
database,
who's already been put into the database. Yeah.
and hope there's a match. I don't know whether there ever was an outcome. I don't know the outcome on if they ever did catch the person who actually did this, but this came up simply because this was an anniversary of his, and it's bringing to light that there are fractures in our justice system, that there are times where innocent people do get accused for crimes that they didn't commit. And I actually have another case of that coming up a little later on in our story. But I often wonder, like I said, innocent until proven guilty. I almost feel like with a lot of these cases, we treat people as if they're guilty before they're proven innocent, but they always say you're innocent until proven guilty. But I almost feel like as a society thing, we automatically treat people as guilty. We really do.
We do. Especially when it's a case of like a nun being murdered. The court of public opinion is going to sway to somebody's guilty, someone has to be punished.
And the fact that they even said that the police was pressured, the town wanted to know who killed a nun. I mean, that's pretty horrific. I mean, I don't even know the details as far as how graphic or how violent her death is. There could have been even more to her death. But the fact is, a nun was killed. They blamed Johnny for it simply because he was a troubled teen. They had poor testimony. They didn't have enough evidence, but they still gave him enough that he was convicted with lethal injection. And they finally, after 11 years behind bars, they finally gave him the lethal injection. And it wasn't until after that they finally found, with the new evidence, that he was innocent the entire time. And by then, I feel like his life was destroyed. I mean, you're 16, now you're 28 years old. And
I'm surprised they admitted it.
So it makes it's kind of, that's definitely a fracture in our justice system.
And those fractures can happen so easily too.
Yeah, there's another story that we have coming up in regards to that, but I guess we'll go into the next horrific story. It really is. It's one horrific story after the next. Oh, this one. I'm laughing at this one. I have to put some comedy in this. It's not necessarily comedy. He's shaking his head. Okay, so Netflix people, you got to check out a movie. The movie is called, well, it's not a movie, it's a documentary. The Man with 1,000 Kids. So this is Jonathan Jacob Maher. He is a prolific sperm donor. He goes around the world offering his sperm to all these fertility clinics. And it turns out that he fathered over 1,000 kids around the world. Now, in his home country, in April of last year, he is barred from donating sperm to any of the fertility clinics in his country in the Netherlands, because their fear is he fathered so many children in the Netherlands that it's going to be like siblings mating with siblings, because they're not going to realize that they are siblings because he's the same father. Because usually, generally, they seal the records of who the sperm donor is. You don't necessarily know who the father is. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you just have like just a description of them and stuff like. So they're worried that since there's 500 children running around in the Netherlands that are all his kids, that somehow that they're going to crossbreed and mate in the future, and it's going to cause problems in the future. So they are setting a fine for 100,000 euros for every violation if he ever decides to donate sperm again. I'm laughing at this because it's kind of funny. You're shaking your head. Why are you shaking your head at this?
How do these clinics screw up like that?
Well, is it a screw up?
I mean, don't you have more than one donor that you can?
But if you have, I mean, okay, if you fit the, I'm going to say, if you fit the ideal candidate, you have certain features that people like. You have a very healthy, like illness. You don't have illnesses. You don't have any issues. No medical issues. If your sperm has a very high count, because a lot of these.
I don't know how this stuff works. But I assume that all of the donors are in a database, right?
But a lot of times they are protected and they're just simply known as like a number, like number 1, number 2, number, you know what I mean? He could be file number 69 for you know what I
But
mean?
don't they have like, I
And
don't know.
maybe different fertility clinics don't necessarily talk to each other, because remember, he's been going around the world. He didn't just do this in the Netherlands. He went around the world
If that's the
giving
case,
his seed to everybody.
then this sort of thing definitely needs to be watched more closely.
Well, there's more to this story, because everybody's probably asking, okay, where is this a crime story? Because this is actually a 2-part crime story. So the fact is, not that he did the crime, but they are going to press charges against him that if he gives his sperm to another fertility clinic, they're going to fine him 100,000 euros for every violation if he donates again. So he could potentially break that if he decides to donate it. But here's where it gets interesting, and this is where the twist is on the fact with Netflix. So let me go to the next slide, because he is in a legal battle with Netflix because of the documentary The Man with the 1,000 Kids, and it has to do with slander. So the question is, and that's him, nice like surfer dude. So, slander by Netflix docuseries. Referring to Netflix, Mayer added that I will take legal action for slander. This is really insane. I will take legal action not only because of the mixing, but of some other claims as well. So, an anonymous sperm donor alleged in the series that Mayer and another man, identified only as Leon, ran a website named Longing for a Child to try to father as many children as possible. The anonymous donor said that Maher and Leon used to mix their sperm samples together to play sperm roulette to see who the child would end up looking like. In a letter to the Business Insider, Maher denied running the website. And he said, I've never ran that website. There's no evidence for that. He posted an advertisement on that website in the early years of donating between 2008 and 2014. What Leon did is unclear to me. I've only met him 4 to 5 times in my life, and he passed away 2 years ago.
That's
So now,
convenient.
okay, so that's another layer on top of it, because, okay, sperm clinics, you're going to the clinic, they're going to give you a little cup, you go do your thing, you come out with the cup. So if he's being allegedly accused of mixing sperm, that means he's bringing with him the sperm of another person, and then when they give him the little cup to do his thing, he's mixing it together, like shaking it up. That is going to create, like, I want to say, a violation of, because they are collecting his sperm, so they're basing it on his age, his DNA, his body type, that sort of thing. He's now mixing his sperm with a different person, and they're playing, quote, sperm roulette. So the question is now, who does the child actually belong to if the sperm is mixed up? Am I giving you a headache on this one?
So many terrible mental images with this one. What the hell?
Well, that's what I said. So this is a lighter note. I mean, we're not talking about murder. We're not talking about atrocities, but this is multiple semi-type crimes that are happening, because you have the slander against Netflix, because Netflix is making, because that's one of the things I don't know if people realize about Netflix is they don't get they don't get permission from the people they do the docuseries on. When they do their documentaries, that's their own take on what necessarily happens. So Netflix could be like liable for a lot of slander if they're making these accusations and it's not necessarily true. But I also have to look at the flip side. This is Netflix. They probably have a big enough legal department, as well as more than enough information, that they probably can make these claims and
It
stand
won't
by
even
it.
fall on Netflix.
Right.
If anything, it would fall on the filmmaker and whoever produced it.
But so he's taking, well, Netflix was the producer That's when they do their little documentaries, because they did one on Dahmer, and there was a couple of issues with that one. They did one on how to become a serial killer. They do. I mean, they do these docu-series all the time. Like, you could, like, what's the next Netflix true
I just
crime?
assumed that they were buying those. I didn't assume that they were actually making them themselves.
They're actually making them themselves. They're
Well,
producing.
that's dumb.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
But that's why I said Netflix has more than enough legal team that they probably, and with, I would assume that they're probably have enough evidence that they can make these claims.
The problem is this guy is going to get bit in the butt because websites have paper trails. So if the guy running it died 2 years ago and the site's still there, who's paying for it?
Mm-hmm. Who's upkeeping it? And plus, there's other sites that just capture random websites anyway, and there's like a backup of a website that they can recover if it was.
Well, right, but it still has to be paid for to stay active. So I don't know that his claims are going to go very far.
So that's the story of the man who who has fathered thousands of children across Europe.
And may or may not have allegedly been involved in a
sperm roulette game. We just mix it up in a cup.
sperm roulette scam is what it sounds like.
Yeah, because like I said, in order to even donate to these clinics, they give you like a full medical workup. I mean, they want the best of the best. You have to be in prime health to donate your sperm.
And if he's taking shortcuts and just selling his own, that's bad.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to see the series, like I said, the docu-series, it is called The Man with 1,000 Children. It's on Netflix, and you get to determine yourself on what to do with this guy.
At what point
I have to say good for him. I don't know. Congratulations.
Until it bites him.
That's true. But seriously speaking, and that's the other flaw in, I mean, this is Netherlands, so I can't speak for Netherlands, but in general, when it comes to cases where you're either like a donated sperm, in vitro fertilization, if you're surrogate, that kind of thing, and the child doesn't know the history, or fostering or anything like that, adoption, they don't know the history of their rightful birth parents, that could cause a lot of problem medically. Like if they don't know what their medical history is, if they don't know their actual constitute of medical issues that they could have because of this. And statistically, with this type of procedure, with the in vitro fertilization, there are more complications statistically that could happen. So if you don't know your past, your medical past, because records are sealed, or because he's playing sperm roulette with somebody else, that could be a lot of problems for these children. I think I made you speechless on this one. Did I totally make you speechless? You're like, no, just no. I mean, he's server dude. Like, dude, I'm donating my sperm. Let's go to the sperm bank. Okay, yeah, let's just mix it in a cup, and then we'll see how many children I can father. No. Okay.
I got nothing.
You got nothing.
I just hope he doesn't end up in jail with having to face those consequences, because wow. Yeah. Just wow.
But I am curious what ends up happening with the Netflix slander suit. That is something that's probably going to take years. But the fact that he is fighting Netflix, I'm just curious where it ends up happening and what the outcome is. So that will be.
The outcome is easy. They have more money than him, so they
Oh
win.
yeah. Oh yeah. Netflix will win. But all right, next story. I almost want to say this. Why is Florida so prevalent on our cases? Do I even have to ask that? Should I ask that question? Florida
Maybe we
comes.
should change the name of the show to Florida Justice
Florida
because
justice. There seems to be a recurring thing with Florida. So this is a case of Florida. So here we got Brandon Gilmore. He decided to drop a young boy headfirst off the second-story balcony at the Sandalwood Resort in Daytona Beach on July 6th. He's facing aggravated child abuse charges. Now, here's where the story gets really weird, and I'm gonna interject in between the lines, but you tell me if this is what you believe. So the boy's mother said that she met Gilmore at the hotel pool earlier in the day. The mother told cops that she left her son with Gilmore while she went to go take a shower. Witnesses say that they saw Gilmore holding the boy by his feet over the second-story balcony and then letting him go. They heard the child screaming after he crashed to the ground. A woman who saw what happened picked up the boy, took her back to her room. Others called 911, and someone went to the mother's room to alert her of the situation. So now, my first question is, you are a female with a child. You are meeting a man at a vacation resort, and you are going to leave your child with a strange man as you go take a shower? So part of me is questioning, did something happen between the two of them that she needed to take a shower?
Was something about to happen
Or was something
and
about to happen?
they couldn't
That
get childcare, so drop him out the window, whatever.
I mean,
Off
that's
the
me leading
balcony.
between the lines. I almost want to say, now there's no
It's
picture of the mother, there's no picture of the boy. There's the picture of him. So he's the guy that allegedly dropped the boy. I have to say allegedly because once again, innocent until proven guilty. But you got witnesses, you got everything. That he's holding the boy and just decides to drop him by the feet.
But the boy survived.
Yes, the boy did survive. So the boy is fine. Did I have it on the next slide or no? I didn't have it on the next slide. Okay, the boy did survive. So he's okay, but he's facing aggravated child abuse charges. So the second question I have is, what would prompt him? Because all right, let me look at it the other way. Is it possible that the boy is running around and maybe was playing too close to the edge of the? But the fact is, they're saying witnesses said he held him by the feet and dropped him. So he can't claim that, oh, I was saving the boy from falling off or can he? I mean, would that be a valid justification?
No. And also, this falls on the mother because who the heck meets somebody and then just says, yeah, watch my kid?
Right. So I agree. This is definitely falling back on the mother because that is like child abandonment. She's abandoning him to somebody who's not qualified to take care of her child and leaving him with a complete stranger. Well, then the stranger decides to just. And I mean, who does that? I mean, what I would love to know what was going through his mind when he's like, I'm just going to drop a child on his head from a second-story balcony. I think that'll be fun to. I don't know what's going on in his head.
I'm wondering which room they were in. Was this like her room that she had rented out, or was
His
it
room.
his?
Or
And
was
which
it
question? Why would she be taking a shower in his room? It's.
But I think the mother went back to her room because it said someone went to the mother's room to alert her of the situation. So she was at the pool at the hotel. This was on the balcony. But were they in his room to begin with, and then she just went into her room to take a shower? because she wanted to get changed, or I don't know. But it's just, to me, there's so much more to the story than what they're saying. And I almost want to know is, did the two of them did they just meet, or was there more to the story that there was a relationship between the two of them?
How old was this child?
It didn't say, it just said young boy. So I'm going to assume toddler. I'm going to assume toddler age simply because he held him by his feet. So, I mean,
Well, that's not fair. I mean,
that's not fair? Okay.
he could be 12. He could actually be old enough to possibly look after himself at the pool. She
Possibly.
might have left him there.
Yeah.
How he got upstairs and over a balcony with this dude is questionable at best.
Correct.
There's a lot of info missing here, and it bugs me.
And I don't like that when I do research on these stories, and I mean, all the stories are reporting the same story, same information, and it's either leaving out details, leaving out names, leaving out. And I mean, I know they do that a lot of times to protect the identity of either the minor, of the victims. I know they do that, but we're almost like a society where we want to know. It's like, give us more information. We want to know what happened. I mean, it's like the same idea with obituaries. I always want to know, okay, how did the person die? What happened? They never say it in an obituary. But if it was something that was graphic, like a murder or something, they will say in a story. But in general, they never tell you how a person dies. You got to like really dig into it in order to find out how somebody passed away. So, I guess we're just a type of society that just wants to know all the information. It's the next sensational tragedy that it's a train wreck that people want to look at, and that's sad.
I'm just glad the kid's okay.
Yeah, so he did survive on this, and he's going to be charged with aggravated child abuse. So now the next story is a graphic story, I warn you, and it is about a child abuse story. So this one, okay. So this is the mother and so mom and stepdad waterboarded their 10-year-old girl and then set her on fire. They get decades behind bars. So Chloe Ray Sargent, who's on the left, that's the mother, and Keola Cachero Wimbish is on the right. Those are their mugshots from April of 2022. They were each sentenced to 20 years in prison in Maricopa County, Florida. I'm sorry, Maricopa County, Arizona. Doctors conducted a medical examination at the Phoenix area hospital. They found that the girl had at least a dozen broken bones, covered in scrapes and bruises and burns, was suffering from lacerations so deep in her skin that her bone was visible through the cut. Medical staff also noted that several of the girl's injuries were affected and had not received sufficient medical attention. The child was also determined to have suffered from chronic malnutrition. According to the police, the weapons used against the girl included a machete, a crowbar, and a hammer. Wimbish is also accused of lacerating one of the girl's fingers, choking her while holding her body against a door, and forcing the girl's hand to touch him inappropriately. The victim also said, sorry.
I'll be right back.
Okay. The victim also said that Wimbish had burned her with a metal straw. The abuse sometimes took on a distinct dimensions of torture. When they were staying at another relative's home, Wimbish waterboarded the girl with a bucket and then set her on fire by pouring alcohol on her and using a lighter to start the blaze. The girl also claimed that Wimbish sexually abused her. This to me is a horrific story. I mean, it's not just one case of, oh, hello, Spirit. I just saw you while I was reading. Welcome to the show. And I'm sorry you came in at a disturbing point. But this is a horrific story. And I feel so bad for this girl. I mean, what happened to this girl is devastating. And it makes you wonder what sort of evilness would cause not only a mother. I mean, you're bringing a child into this world to life, and you would want to torture them as bad as this. And for those of you who don't know what waterboarding is, basically it's the concept of you're taking a towel, you're putting it over the face, and then you're pouring water on it. It doesn't sound like it's dangerous, but what it really is, it's because you end up breathing in the water, you're inhaling the water, and it creates a suction of the wetness of the cloth, and you can't breathe. It literally is drowning. So they waterboarded their 10-year-old girl. They set her on fire. They tortured her. There was possibly sexually abuse with her as well. And it just makes it's disgusting. So they finally were sent. Now, the crimes happened in 2022. We are now in 2024. So it took 2 years to finally give them a sentence. And I mean, I also feel like that. I understand that there's so many cases, but I feel like when it comes to, and by the way, Sean, I don't know if you realize you're off or, okay. I didn't know if you
did that on purpose. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's fine. No problem. There's so many cases in the system, so I understand that there may be a delay, but I almost feel like our legal proceedings is just too long. It's too long. It takes 2 years to determine a case like this. So,
if they're guilty of what they're accused of,
well, they were found guilty. They got 20 years each in state prison.
Only 20 years?
20 years each, yeah.
Only?
Well, I know that's not enough time, but it's one of those things that, once again, when it comes to justice, prison has their own justice system. So, I mean, when they find out, I almost want to say when the prisoners find out what these two are accused of, they are not going to have a good time at all. I mean, it's the unspoken rule that when it comes to kids, you just do not do anything to kids. And this is a mom doing it to their own child. Stepdad doing it. I mean, okay, the immediate question is, okay, where's the father? Where's the real, you know what I mean? We don't know. But the stepdad and the mother doing this to their poor 10-year-old daughter.
Disgusting.
Yeah.
It's cruel.
So these cases are disturbing. I know. I'm like, just talking about these and researching it affects you. It really, I mean, it's really horrific. And the fact is, it's week after week after week. Like every day, all I have to do is just open up the headlines and there'll be another story. And it shouldn't be that way. I would love to open up the headlines and get nothing but positive news. Like, just make everything happy. But that's all it is it's the atrocities and the horrors of the human psyche. Okay, so I guess we'll go to the next page.
Please do.
I'm going to another sad one. This one I feel could have been prevented. This is a case that absolutely could not be prevented, and I'm sorry, this is a sad story. A 12-year-old calls up 911 and speaks to an operator and basically is fearing for his life. Now, you can actually hear the 911 call, because it is, if you type in their names, it is released. But basically, he is afraid because his brother brought some sort of package home, and he felt that the brother was going to do something with this package. Well, you listen to the call with the 911 operator, and it's almost slightly dismissive, but it's the attitude is like, well, there's no crime. We'll send a police to talk to him, that sort of thing, but there's really nothing we could do. And that's how it was treated. Well, there's nothing we could do. Okay, so you're afraid of your brother. Well, he called the 911 police because he felt his life was in jeopardy. But sadly, the police arrived too late. The boy's older brother took his life. Prayers for the victim and the loved ones, and it marks the 10-year anniversary. So this also happened 10 years ago. Of the 12-year-old brother, by his brother in Phoenix. In March of 2014, Andrew Ward called the police to turn himself in for stabbing his younger brother, Austin Talpia, at their home. The day before the murder, the child had called the Phoenix police expressing fear about a package Ward brought into their home. Ward committed another murder less than a month later, killing his cellmate, Douglas Walker, in the Lower Buckeye Jail with the Maricopa County, once again, Sheriff's Office. Ward was sentenced to life in prison, and he remains in custody in Arizona and has no chance of parole. Now, Spirit says, why would any adult think that it's even necessary to hurt someone younger is beyond understanding? Not even close. Here, I'm just going to not even close to fair or just. So uneven maturity, let alone life experience. Spirit, like I said, these stories will tug at your heartstrings. I cannot understand it as well. Like, why do parents do this to their kids? Why do step parents do it to this? I mean, it's like, leave the kids alone. They're only starting out in life. You as an adult already had your life before you, and you're going to strip away and take away the innocence of a younger person. It's horrific. So now, like I said, 10 years has passed with this particular case, but it's just a reminder as far as, in some cases, if they would have taken the kids seriously, if they would have said, okay, we'll send the police over there, we'll take a look, we'll talk. They really didn't do that. It wasn't until the next day that the police were at the house because of the murder, and he turned himself in. If they would have did maybe something right then and there and actually took that phone call seriously, that says, okay, let's just do a welfare check, let's just see what happens. They never did that. So, and then he goes and commits another murder in the jail with his cellmate. Which, okay, I'm going to throw out a question. I don't know how everybody feels, and if anybody wants to respond out, and I'll throw it in the comments. But here's a genuine question that I have, because you get sent to jail for a crime. You are now in jail. A lot of things can happen in jail because basically you are among the mix with other people who are violent, who may have done murders, who may have done. So, okay, let's just say something happens. You kill someone, you defend yourself, you do this, you do that. You're then going to get time on top of time on top of time. Correct. For the horrors that you did. And this is going to come up in another story, but my question is it's a bad question, but should you be accountable for crimes committed in jail? Because, yes. Well, I'm asking the wrong things. In other words, if jail was truly done the way it should be, there should be no access to hurting other people. You know what I mean? There shouldn't be but obviously there's going to be shanks, there's going to be things smuggled in, stuff like that. But there shouldn't be incidences where people have the opportunity to kill each other or murder each other or hurt each other in jail. There shouldn't be, I say. But it happens.
There shouldn't be, but that's not possible because a person can turn anything into a weapon. And the fact is they don't need weapons to take a life or to hurt each other.
That's true. That's absolutely true. They can use their own bare hands.
Humans are social creatures. So what are you going to do? Hold them apart? And
I wonder about that.
Cruel and unnecessary too. So you can't take a punitive system like the prison system and expect it to do anything as far as rehabilitating anyone else. Because you're just sticking bad people with bad people.
And sometimes going to jail, you learn more bad things and become even worse when you get out of it than what you did. But Spirit said back in the 80s and 90s, my state cut so much mental health services, and look at the innocent people paying for that decision to budget cut. They did that everywhere. They closed down so many mental institutions. And I mean, okay, I'm a big proponent for that. I really believe they need to bring back the mental institutions. I really do. I think a lot of crimes and issues have to do with how people deal with their mental health issues how society, I mean, I feel like there's certain people that should not be in society. And I mean, I know that's not unfair to say, but there really are evil, cruel, and disgusting people out there that should not be mixing with regular society, because the way they perceive things is so out of balance that they need genuine help.
Okay, they do need help. I'll agree there.
Okay. But you have
They definitely don't need to be released and homeless the way they were back in the 80s and 90s.
Or services if you are having a problem in life for any reason. I believe that our mental health system needs an entire overhaul. I really do. I think there needs to be some sort of improvement to it.
I believe it needs to stop falling on police to do those jobs too, because the police aren't trained or qualified to do those things, but they're the first ones there.
And right, and they're the first ones that have to deal that, and sometimes that's the biggest issue, is the people that they deal with are mentally imbalanced to begin with. Oh, you're not saying street criminals? But I mean, just your average person with a mental health disorder that maybe can't function.
If there's any sort of incident in public dealing with someone with mental health, who's the first one to show up?
The police.
Because it's not a therapist or a counselor or anyone like that. It's unfortunately
and the fact
police.
is, homelessness, a very large a large percentage of homeless people do have mental health issues. Not saying all of them. I mean, there are some cases where simply somebody who got fired at the wrong time and is trying to build their life back up together, or needs to feed their family. I mean, there are genuine cases of people who do have a devastating life that got to the point that they're homeless. I'm not talking about those people. I'm talking about the people who have genuinely, like you said, been released from the mental hospitals, just thrown out on the streets with no chance of making up for it because they were just thrown out there, or they really do have a disturbance that they can't function in regular society. My point is, a system that can help anyone should not be so severely severed. I agree. Spirit, you're absolutely right. And I mean, we call this fractured justice, but there's so many fractures in so many different ways. It's not all about the murders and all this. I mean, there's fractures in so many aspects to the system.
It's all of the systems that are in place.
Yeah.
But you're right.
Perfect. So yeah, that was the story of us in Tapia. This happened 10 years ago, so this is an older story. But once again, it was the mark of the 10-year anniversary. They do that a lot of times with these stories, is like when the anniversary happens, they'll
spread the awareness.
Yeah, spread the awareness that, hey, this is what happens, because he's still in prison, life sentence, no chance of parole. He's not getting out. So,
well, if you show the next slide,
yeah,
it's still about this case.
Oh, it is. I didn't even realize that. Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought it was only one thing. Okay, so basically the case of this. On the evening of March 12 at around 5:30, Ward called the police from Circle K convenience store, reported that he stabbed someone at the house on 35th Deer Roll in Phoenix. During the call, Ward said that there's been a murder, but he was initially hesitant to describe what happened because he was the one that did it. But when pressed by the dispatcher, Ward admitted to stabbing Tapia in the chest, head, and neck.
That's a lot of rage.
Yeah. Police said he'd been alone with Tapia, who decided to stay home while his mother and two sisters went out for dinner. Police found Ward at the Circle K with a bloody knife and blood on his clothes. Ward told the dispatcher that I just felt like killing. Yeah. Like, why do you do this? I just feel like killing, according to the records of the 911 call. And the picture there, Andrew Ward was in jail awaiting the trial of murder for charges of the death of his 12-year-old brother when he killed his cellmate, Douglas Walter. Authorities said Walker was found beaten, stabbed with a golf pencil, and smeared with peanut butter all over his head. So now, if anybody knows what those golf pencils are, those are little tiny pencils that they used to give you with the with miniature golf sheets and stuff like that. The golf. So he stabbed that little pencil into him and then smeared peanut butter all over his head. Like, that to me is crazy. That's. Why are we laughing? I'm not laughing. I'm not laughing.
I'm not laughing at all. That's.
It's at the
trying to hold back the swear words.
It's at the point, like I said, that we read these stories and they're just so horrific, and it makes you wonder, like, where is the logic? Yes, Spirit. Texas does have the death penalty, and Capital One murder cases go to the front line. And I don't know if you were here earlier. We were talking about one of the cases where the in Texas, where he was wrongly accused of he was given a lethal injection, but he was innocent the entire time. He spent 11 years, and that was one of the cases. It was a little earlier in the discussion, but yes, Texas does have the death penalty. This particular one happened in Arizona, which this is another Maricopa County. I'm saying it wrong. Maricopa. I can't even say it. This is another case from that particular county. Should there be death penalties in heinous crimes? I absolutely believe there should be. However, what happens when the person is innocent? That's the problem. Mea culpa. I can't even say it. Maya.
I believe that the death penalty has its place, and that's for violent crimes when there's beyond a reasonable doubt and they've had their time to try to prove their innocence after.
But now it's getting to a lot of these cases that were death penalty, they didn't have DNA. They didn't have the advances in the forensics that they have nowadays. And it's sad when they start going through these cases and they're running the DNA through the system and they're realizing, hey, the person that was accused is not the person that's guilty. You know what I mean? It's that's not the person. We put an innocent person behind bars. And that's it. Maricopa. There we go. Maricopa. I just know it because of the I can't even say it. The voter issue a couple of years ago, but we'll just say that. No, I'm just gonna say voter issue. That doesn't mean anything. Doesn't matter what political side you are.
We're not getting into politics.
We
tonight.
are not. We were just saying that they had that county has like some issues with So, but thank you, Spirit. I couldn't say it. It's like Maricopa. I'm getting my tongue tied on it.
Shall we go to the next slide?
Let's go to the next slide, yes. Because I have it on full screen, I can't see the next slide until I actually move it. Okay. Oh, this one. All right. So this is not necessarily, okay. I'm bringing this in not as a crime, but I want to highlight this because it is a tragedy that happened. And this is one of the things we discussed last week. We already had the very first story where we talked about the kid shot himself while the parents were buying fireworks at Walmart, at the fireworks stand. This is a tragedy of what actually happened with fireworks. And I almost want to say the sad thing is every year something like this happens. So what happened was a man dressed up as Uncle Sam. He is a father. He has kids in front of his family, barbecue and stuff like that. He dies of massive head trauma, lighting a firework off of his Uncle Sam top hat on July 4th. The man's death has been ruled an accident, so it was an accident, after he lit the firework on the 4th of July. His name was Alan Ray McGrew. He was 41 years old. He died Thursday afternoon while celebrating the holiday outside his home in Somerville, a town about 25 miles northwest of Charleston of the Dorchester County. The brother said that he died due to massive head trauma with cerebral avulsion. and ruled his death an accident. Now, a couple of things. The first thing is the video of him, that's just a picture, but there's a video of him smoking a cigarette, dancing, having fun. That was taken slightly minutes before the firework went off. You don't actually see the firework. They will not show it. In discussion, yeah, they don't show it. I mean, it's probably somewhere on the dark web. But here's the sad thing is when people were talking about this, like witnesses, they were saying that it was so graphic that his head actually exploded. Like it wasn't just, I mean, they're just saying massive head trauma. It was instantaneous. His head exploded. And it was simply because he put the firework on top of the head. Now, the picture underneath is him and his son. And what makes the story even sadder is it went so viral with him with the image with the cigarette and stuff like that, that everybody was saying, oh, he's an alcohol. This was due to drugs. This was due to alcohol. This is a family man that never did drugs, didn't smoke alcohol, didn't drink alcohol at all.
I'm sorry.
I know I said smoke alcohol. I know I'm stumbling across my words. I'm sorry. This was a family man that didn't drink, but yes, he was smoking. That was his thing. And it completely went viral that this is another case of, and you know how quickly bad things can spread. So
the important part is he didn't respect fireworks and placed something explosive on his head and paid the price for it.
Yes.
It's terrible, but...
And this happens time and time. Every 4th of July, there is always a firework incident. There always is. And I mean, you're playing with dangerous explosives. Most cities, I mean, okay, you can see the house behind him. I don't know whether they were even allowed to have fireworks in the city because most towns have city ordinances that you are not allowed to light fireworks in a residential area.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said it doesn't look familiar. We try to bring various stories. I mean, these are stories I collect through the week. And like I said, the fact that we keep having more and more stories is sad. I mean, I would almost, I hate to say, I would almost love a week where I don't find any stories that I could actually come and say, okay, there's no new stories this week. Let's talk about some old ones and I can bring, but the fact that we're bringing up to the minute stories of things that are happening is just, it's so sad. Spirit says, I've watched the expansion of explosive use grow since my childhood. It's sad. Because you know something, it's exciting. I mean, okay, who loves fireworks? It's a big bang. They're colorful. You play with them. I mean, all right, I came from New York. I'll be honest. New York fireworks are very, very strict. You can only go to big shows and watch it. I've never in my life, until I came here to Texas, actually lit a firework before. So, and I only came to Texas around 10 years ago. So me coming to Texas in my late 30s, and I'm like, you mean to tell me I can light a firework? Seriously?
Whereas I was raised in Texas, and as a child I was given these things, and in my own ignorance, I will admit that my friends and I used to have bottle rocket wars with each other because we were idiots. And I have the scars to prove it. We were dumb, and any of us could have ended up like this guy.
And that's extremely sad. I mean, and this is senseless accidents. If you got to respect the power that fireworks have and how dangerous they really, really are. I mean, there's another viral video going around that actually happened years ago, but if they played where the family is just sitting on the lawn, the mom has a little baby and stuff like that, and the father goes to light the firework, but instead of going up, it goes out. And then it ended up going out right into the car, which had all the other fireworks. And before you know it, the car's exploding. And it's crazy. Sparklers and mild firecrackers, now people use nearly professional ones. Exactly. Oh, yeah, I could go right to the fireworks stand and get some of the most explosive stuff that will just blow up the entire house if I wanted it to blow up. Really would. And I mean, I'm not trying to joke. They literally are arson-induced bombs. Can I say that? Am I allowed to say that? I probably shouldn't say that.
I don't
But it's
know
like
that you can say that.
I know. I'm sorry, but I mean that's how dangerous fireworks are.
They can be.
Yeah.
I've seen some of the fireworks shop owners were make themselves that were essentially just makeshift mortars. They're crazy.
And I mean,
And
believe
the
me,
fact that they're so easy to make is even worse.
and they're beautiful though. I mean, okay, I have to admit, I went to the local fireworks show in the park. I will say this: I got so emotional. I cried my eyes out because it was so beautiful. Because it has been so long since I actually saw fireworks, like a beautiful show, and it had the music, and I was like, but it's beautiful. It really was. But to see tragedy happen because people take it upon themselves to light it instead of leaving it to the professionals. I mean, there was they said the fireworks show that I went to, it was reported that there was 20,000 people there at the fireworks show. It was massive. It was beautiful. So I mean, there's 20,000 people watching this fireworks show. It was loud, it was beautiful, it was big. We all were able to see it. So, I mean, I know how exciting it would be if you want to do it in your own home, but it's so dangerous to do it around the house, around where there's houses in a residential area. You need to do it out in the middle of nowhere. So that's why I truly believe that fireworks, I mean, like I said, I'm from New York. I really believe that they should be illegal to everybody. That only it should be a professional show and that's it. That's my personal opinion.
There should at least be some sort of training involved. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that people shouldn't be able to have them, but there should be something.
So now this father lost his life in a horrific way. It was on camera. I mean, they did record it. So they have the recording. And like I said, it's very graphic where his head actually exploded. And they got to live with this. It's sad. So Spirit's just looking. I know, Spirit. I got to cover my eyes as well. I'm just. Oh. All right. I guess on to the next story. The fact that we got multiple stories. Okay, this one, I shouldn't laugh at this one. I had to throw this in because this is the idiot. I want to put this in the idiot file because I like this one. I shouldn't call it, but let's read this one. Supreme Court Justice's bodyguard shoot a carjacker outside her DC home. So a pair of U.S. Marshals were on security detail near Supreme Court Justice Sonia Sotomayor's, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, home. But they shot an armed carjacker last week, according to the court documents. So on July 5th, a pair of officers described as on duty working protective detail. So in other words, this is like her Secret Service bodyguard sort of thing. They're in their car, sitting in an unmarked U.S. government vehicle, wearing their agency uniform. So they're in their uniforms and everything. When a van stops next to them with an armed man approach, pointed a pistol at the window, and tries to carjack their car. So he's carjacking U.S. Marshal. I'm not laughing. I'm sorry. But that's why I said this is going in the idiot file.
Damn, that's dumb.
So the officers drew their weapons and fired multiple times, leaving the alleged carjacker, Kentrell Flowers, only 18 years old. He's 18 years old with non-life-threatening injuries to the mouth. So they shot him in the mouth?
Okay. So 2 officers both drew their guns, both fired.
And he has injuries to the mouth. The officers, Flowers was given first aid, taken to a hospital, and placed under arrest. according to the court documents. He is charged with armed carjacking, carrying a pistol without a license, possessing a large capacity ammunition feeding device. Okay, so I'm going to say magazine. Yeah, I was going to, but there's a picture of the gun. He might have, did something to it.
Let me see.
It's a little hard to see. But this is the Supreme Court justice. I mean, like I said, they have their own U.S. Marshal, and you're trying to carjack the U.S. Marshal.
In fact, that's probably the magazine that came with the gun when he bought it.
Is it?
So that's just a silly charge to throw on there.
Be careful of my choice of words. I know, I got to be careful. I'm sorry. But it's like, why would they do this? That just...
It was...
But the good news is he is alive. He did not die. He does have some permanent damage to his mouth area, but he did get taken care of to the hospital, and he is going to go to jail for this. And no offense, because it is at a higher level, you're dealing with U.S. Marshals, he's going to get a long sentence. This isn't a easy sentence. It's going to be a very long time.
Probably, and I'm curious as to what's going to happen with it, but he's very lucky.
Because they could have just shot him. They could have ended his life instantly. The fact is, his life was not ended, and they did give him the medical attention that he needed. So, I mean, when they say mouth injury, I'm assuming maybe it went sideways. Well, that's what I'm saying. Spirit said it must have looked like a good one to hijack or something. It's too tempting, but sad. Government vehicles, a lot of times, because this was an unmarked car, so a lot of times they are like black Escalade trucks, sort of, right? Like they're the big SUV.
That's what they are on TV. Who knows what this vehicle was?
I'm just thinking when you see the motorcades and stuff like that, usually they're like... But yeah, we don't know what it is. It just says an on-duty working protective detail were in their government, an unmarked U.S. government vehicle. So it could have been any vehicle. Who knows? So I just get this big image of like a black SUV, like a tank type thing.
Right.
Yeah. It had to be close to D.C. Where was this? This was in... Yeah, carjack outside her D.C. home. So it was. Yeah, it was close to D.C. So this...
There's a lot of bad choices here.
Yeah. That's why I said, I'm like, this goes into... I shouldn't even say it, but it goes into, like, stupid idiot. Yeah, bad choice. This was not a smart move at all. And the fact is he's only 18 years old. So his... I mean, I want to say his life is over at this. It's going to be something. I mean, not only now that his face is permanently disfigured from the gunshot wounds, he's going to probably spend a long time behind bars. He's not getting out anytime soon. So I put that story in there. Okay, next story. Oh man, we still have more stories. Oh, okay. This one, okay. This is one of the times where justice is truly fractured. And this is a sad story. So we're going to talk about the story of Sandra Heem. And this also ties into what I was discussing earlier. But let me read this particular story, and I would love to hear your comments and thoughts about this. So the court orders a release of a woman whose murder conviction was overturned after serving 43 years. She spent 43 years in prison. She is the victim of a manifest injustice, the judge concluded. This court finds that the totality of evidence supports a finding of actual innocence. So what happened, this was in Kansas City, Missouri, an appellate court has ordered the release of a Missouri woman whose murder conviction was overturned after she served 43 years in prison. But, and here's the kick, the state attorney general wants to keep her behind bars as they're reviewing the case. And there's a reason for that, which I'll explain in a second. Monday's ruling by a panel of appeals court judges came after they ruled that Sandra Heem's attorneys had established clear and convincing evidence of actual innocence. Judge Ryan Horseman said that on June 14th, she must be freed within 30 days unless the prosecutors decide to retry her. Which, that's my question. Isn't that part of like the double jeopardy? You can't try a person twice. I mean, I'm curious about that. Does that go against those rules? I don't have an answer to that, but that was a question I had when I saw that. The Attorney General Office, which almost always objects to wrongful conviction claims, asked the appellate court to reconsider, saying that the court didn't give them enough time to argue against her release. Bailey's office argued that when Heem was sentenced decades ago to 12 years for violence in prison, that she would start serving that penalty now. Now, that's where they want to keep her in jail, because while she was in prison, she was violent in prison. So they started tacking on the years to her penalty. So now, even though she was innocent of her initial crime, they want her to pay for the violence she did in prison. So that was my question from earlier, is should they be held accountable? Because originally, if she was never charged for this and never found guilty, she would have never been in prison to begin with. But that's just something to think of. Her attorneys responded that keeping her incarcerated any longer would be a draconian outcome. Hem is now 64 years old, has been serving a life sentence at a prison in Kansas City after she was twice convicted of murder in the death of a library worker, Patricia Jecke. She is now the longest held wrongly incarcerated woman known in the U.S., according to her legal team at the Innocence Project. After an extensive review, Horseman found that Heem was heavily sedated and malleable mental state when investigators repeatedly questioned her in a psychiatric hospital. Police ignored the evidence, pointed to a discredited fellow officer who died back in 2015, and the prosecution wasn't told about the FBI results that could have cleared her, so it was never disclosed before her trial. The prosecutor at her trial agreed that 4 decades later, that nothing linked her to the crime other than her confession, which followed multiple contradictory statements. Her attorneys described her ultimate confession in court, often monosyllable responses leading to questions. So she is the victim of a manifest injustice, they concluded in his 118-page ruling. The court finds that the totality of evidence support a finding of actual innocence. So this, I was shocked. She spent,
total fracture of justice, and trying to hold her accountable after she's already served time. I mean, that's time served above and beyond what she would have gotten anyway.
Correct. And I mean, that's what I was talking about earlier. Is like, should you be held accountable for prison violence when you're exposed in an area where everything around you is violent and things could happen? And she keeps getting more and more years added to her time. And now they want to keep her there for the violence that she did in prison, even though she was totally innocent. It says, Spirit says, well, the law doesn't say best outcome after 3 examinations case. I'm not so keen on all these retrials in general. I know. And that's why I was questioning, because it already said that she was tried twice in the case. And I'm just remembering, and I mean, maybe I don't have the exact details, but double jeopardy. You can't be tried for the same crime twice. And here they want to retry her, which doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. I understand the particulars of this case. She was boned over and over. Mm-hmm. Now, if anybody doesn't know about the Innocence Project, I just want to make mention of that. That is an amazing program that does try to reevaluate cases, and they have made some amazing strides in releasing innocent people from prison. So definitely take a look at the Innocence Project if nobody knows about that program. But the third was an exoneration. So I'm curious what's going to happen with this case. I mean, particularly her whole life is I mean, come on, for that long in prison, can she even function in society? I mean, think about this. In all that time, she won't know
It'll
the
be
computer,
hard.
yeah, the computer technologies that were made, the electronic technologies. Just think about it. I mean, how many advances between that long ago till now?
She's been in prison our entire lives, just about.
Correct. Yes. Yeah, that's equivalent to being in prison. Yeah, you're right. And that's, I can't imagine that.
And then the the Attorney General is trying to cover their own butts by leaving her there so they don't have to admit that they were wrong.
Hmm. There's so many rules against some evidence being excluded. Does anyone really get a fair trial? You know something, Spirit, I agree with that. I do not. That's why I said our justice system. There's always things that get slipped under that things happen. I mean, I understand innocent until proven guilty. Society, we say everybody's guilty. I mean, we do. We act like they're guilty before they're innocent. But it's like, how many people have gotten away with the crimes that they committed? And then how many people have suffered because they couldn't prove that they were actually innocent? Those are the stories that really like clench you at the heart. I mean, tug at your heartstrings.
How many people couldn't afford to pay for someone to defend them?
Mm-hmm. And I
People
mean,
do
even
make false confessions. Spirit, you're right.
yeah. And in this case, she was in a psychiatric hospital at the time she made her confession. So she was under medication at a psychiatric hospital at the time when they took her confession. So I mean, that should have been inadmissible to, in my mind, to begin with. If you're under that type of,
I think there's one more slide to this case.
oh, is there? Okay, thank you for telling me, because like I said, I can't see the next slides. Okay, so Bailey sought a delay in Hem's release to allow the appellate court review. She represents a safety risk to others, citing a 1990s attack on a prison worker and statements she made decades ago about enjoying violence, and arguing that the evidence she presented is not newly discovered, so Hem did not meet the actual innocence standard as a matter of law. That's what the prosecution what they're trying to say. But the prosecution office didn't respond for requests to comment. Hem was arrested weeks after the death of Jenke, a 31-year-old library worker who lived in St. Joseph, Missouri. After Jenke missed work on November 13, 1980, I was born in 1980. So, yeah, her worried mother climbed through an apartment window and discovered that her daughter's nude body on the floor, surrounded by blood, with her hands tied behind her back, and a telephone cord and a pair of pantyhose wrapped around her throat. A knife was under her head. These and other details were released to the media by the St. Joseph's Police, Robert Hayes, as the crime prompted a massive investigation. So that was the initial crime. Once again, you have a murder, 31-year-old, nude body, blood, pair of pantyhose. So now, all this time, that means there is somebody out there who actually did this crime. But yet it was Hem that was accused of it and spent all these years in prison for it. It could possibly be police coercion. Absolutely. It's possible. Because, I mean, I almost want to say, even with confessions, I feel like there should be rules against how confessions are made and under what circumstances. I really, I mean, I know that probably is stupid to say, but it's like, I almost feel like if somebody's going to make a confession, that there should be rules on how to accept a confession.
Well, anytime they're taken in and questioned, it's under duress.
Mm-hmm.
So even if someone confesses, it's usually not something that you can actually take without a grain of salt.
Right.
Unless they're just turning themselves over with the confession. That's a different story.
And I mean, in some cases, this is even bad to say. When there's a high profile crime, there will be people that come out of the woodwork saying they're the ones that did it, even though they have nothing to do with the crime, because they just want the attention. They just want the, I don't know, the notoriety that, hey, I did this crime. Meantime, they have nothing to do with the crime. And that happens a lot of times as well. Sometimes people just want questioning to be over. Yeah. So they'll confess to anything because they can't.
And sometimes they're tricked into confessing.
The number one thing when police arrest you, the Miranda rights, they tell you have the right to remain silent. You know something? Your best bet, just remain silent and not say anything. I think I could be wrong. I think legally all you have to do is give your name, and that's the only thing you need to give. Other than that, you don't have to answer any questions whatsoever.
You ask for a lawyer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You remain silent and don't say anything. Ask for a lawyer.
Because anything you say will be used against you. You're just providing ammunition against yourself.
And I've seen, and I have to say this because I guess in all my research, things are popping up on my feed. I see so many cases of people proclaiming sovereign citizenship. Don't even bother doing that. It never ends well, saying that you're a sovereign citizen or using your capital letter name versus your lower letter case name. And yeah, just don't.
I'm not even going to ask.
I only go by my sovereign name. I am a capital M with a lowercase e with a.
Nope.
I'm sorry. I know I'm not trying to make light of it, but yes, there is a legal precedence involving whether your name is all capitals versus lowercase letters, and whether you are a sovereign citizen. And then if you're a citizen of the United States or a citizen of the corporation of the United States. So you can go into that rabbit hole all you guys want. Just don't even bother.
I'm not even going to question what you're talking about. Okay. I'm just going to suggest that we go to the next slide.
We'll go to the next slide. We'll go to the next slide. Okay. All right. So this is, I don't have pictures or anything like this. I just have a long story. You're going to hear more and more mass shootings. And this is exactly what happened. There was another mass shooting on the 4th of July. But this one, it involves at Yellowstone National Park. So a man was fatally shot by park rangers at National Park, allegedly threatened to do a mass shooting. He was a 28-year-old man who worked for the business in Yellowstone National Park in Wyoming, allegedly threatened to carry out a mass shooting before being killed in a shootout with the rangers. Samson Lucas Breyer Fosner, what a long name, is from Milton, Florida. He was confronted by Yellowstone law enforcement rangers early on the morning of July 4th while allegedly shooting a semi-automatic rifle toward a dining facility at the Canyon Village. Approximately 200 people were in the facility at the time. That could have been an epic thing if he actually felt like if that actually happened with that many people in a small confined space. Anyway, during the exchange of gunfire, Fosner was shot by law enforcement rangers and died at the scene. There was a ranger that was also shot in the lower extremities, and the injured ranger was transported to an area hospital. He's in stable condition and has since been released. There were no other injuries reported. He was an employee of the Xanterra Parks and Resorts, a private business authorized to operate in Yellowstone Park. The suspect fatally shot by park rangers after allegedly making threats. The rangers began initially searching for the suspect after 911 dispatch received a report just after midnight on July 4th that a woman has been held against her will by a man with a gun in the residence of Canyon Valley. She also reported to law enforcement that he threatened to kill her and others, including plans to carry out a mass shooting at the July 4th event outside the park. Rangers were strategically deployed in the park amid the search for Fosner and those posted by Canyon Lodge, which houses employees and public dining rooms in the center. And He reportedly walked towards the service entrance of the facility while firing the semi-automatic rifle. So now, kudos to the park rangers because they took a threat seriously. I mean, this woman calls 911 saying this man is threatening to, so they dispatched extra rangers and stuff like that. So that's a good thing. So I think that probably saved a lot of these people. But the fact that he just comes out with his semi-automatic rifle and starts shooting at the entrance, trying to aim at the
Kudos
facility.
to him to being a bad shot.
Yeah. So nobody died with the exception of him. He was the only one that was killed. There was the one officer that did get, but he was released. So, I mean, in this case, this was swift justice. No trial, no nothing. He was shot dead as he was in the process of an alleged mass shooting.
What do you think possesses someone to do this kind of thing?
You don't want my answer to that, do you? Okay.
Chat, what do you think possesses someone to do this sort of thing? How's that?
Okay, no, I will say this, and you guys can think I'm crazy with this, but you know there are certain things that I have opinions of, and I really believe that there is some sort of experimentation with either chemicals, drugs, or imbalances, which is creating mental psychosis in people. And they are experimenting with certain people and certain things at certain times that they want to see what would happen if this person was exposed, that whatever awakens some sort of imbalance that makes them into literally like a Terminator machine, that they're going to go crazy and just that's what I really believe. I seriously believe that this is some sort of weird experimentation.
I'm just gonna go with stress, frustration, rage, mental imbalances.
But yes, that's the point that I'm trying to make. It is all mental imbalance, but I really believe it has to do with a combination of drugs, poisons, something mixed in the food, the air, whatever, that just activates some sort of rage imbalance in a person, and then they use that to.
I appreciate your right to believe those things. However, I do not agree with you. And I will leave it at that.
There was okay, I know you're gonna I wasn't preparing to make this sort of segue, but there is a very interesting thing that happened last year at another national park. And what happened in this particular national park, I don't have the exact details, I'm just going to give an overview, but basically what was happened is the person killed himself in the national park bathroom and wrote on the mirror, I could not go through with it. I had to do this. So people started speculating that, okay, was he a sleeper agent? Was he given a job that he was supposed to do? Did somebody pay him off to do a mass shooting? But it started to do so many questions as far as, okay, he was supposed to commit a mass shooting and backed out of it and said he couldn't go through it and instead shot himself. So it begs the question, are there, I mean, you could even call them like sleeper agents if you want to say that, but are there cases where people are conditioned to snap like that? You're shaking your head. You're like, nope, nope, nope.
You know I'm going to ask you to cite your sources on this.
I will get the story. I don't have it right now, but I'm just following up. Like I said, I don't have it prepared, but there was a story in a national park that happened. I want to say Yellowstone, but I could be wrong. But I remember reading about this because it was being the talk of the town as far as.
And if your source is something like Bro Bible or something, you know we're going to go rounds.
Okay.
No.
I will make that in case you guys want to know. Yes. Sean is very exact with my sources. So any sources that I have, they have to be, quote, in his mind, legitimate sources. Now, obviously, I get my news underground and then I go to the legitimate source and compare and contrast. Okay. So when I originally brought up a couple of the stories, one of them happened to be from the Bro Bible site. And he's like, I am not doing anything from Bro Bible. And I'm like, why? It's a legitimate story. It's just I read it at the Bro Bible first. Okay, anyways. Spirit says, do you think they responded so swiftly because it's federal land? Yes, I think so.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That is an excellent point.
I think they did. I would say that. But I don't know. But the fact is, in this case, it was swift. Nobody got injured except for that one park ranger, which is amazing considering he was already at the entrance shooting. He started shooting immediately. Okay. This wasn't a Bro Bible study. But yes, if anybody ever wants to know my sources and stuff like that, not that I'm just saying what Bro Bible is going to explode. No, I find sources through various means, and then I backtrack it and go towards the mainstream sources, just so we have an understanding that there's.
Usually, if it's not something that goes back to Associated Press, I'm like, I don't know. Who vetted this crap?
Well, that's
because
why
anybody can say anything online, and other sites just regurgitate it. So,
and that's why I try to give pictures. I try to give my sites and stuff like that. Some cases, they, like I said, they don't give you the full information, and some of these cases are brand new that we don't have all the information. So, but yes, I will make sure that they're reputable sites that I'm citing from, and I will get that information next time as to what I was talking about, where he wrote on the mirror and everything, because that did question about whether he was a sleeper agent or not. Okay, next question. Next slide. We're almost done. We have a couple more slides. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't laugh about. I'm not okay. I am not laughing at this, but to me is the highlight story. I have to say this is the highlight. I'm a New York person, so when I read news about New York, to me, it hits home. I'm a New Yorker. I can't help it. You're still shaking your head? I'm sorry. You're shaking your head at me or just the atrocities of the stories? Maybe she's probably shaking her head about me. I know, I say crazy things. I'm sorry, Spirit. I got to be careful with what I say. But here's a story of a New York guy. I'm sorry. This is going to be bad. Okay, so the story behind this is at me. She's shaking her head about me. I'm sorry. Oh, because
Miss, I shouldn't be laughing, but
I'm not laughing. No. Okay, no.
How many times have you said that this episode?
I know that. I'm
not. What is up with you?
I don't know. You know what? It's been a very long week for me, and I think this is just me trying to let off steam because it's been a bad week. All right, no. Seriously, though. This is a New York story. When I read this story and heard the story, and you could see the video on this. There's a video. So I will read it, but let me just tell you the case about this. So there is a man in a motorized wheelchair on camera dragging a garbage bag with 31-year-old Yasmin Williams inside the garbage bag, and he's wheeling around town in the wheelchair. Okay, so let me read the story. So Chad Irish was arrested on Monday afternoon. A man has been charged with concealing a corpse after a woman was found dead inside a trash bag in Kips Bay. He's a 55-year-old man who's been charged with concealing a corpse. The woman was found shot dead and wrapped in a sleeping bag in the Kips Bay neighborhood. Investigators said that Williams had been shot in the head, and the medical examiner ruled her death a homicide. Her body was found in the sleeping bag, which was wrapped in trash bags and left out for the trash to pick up. Irish, who uses a motorized wheelchair, was carried out of his apartment on a gurney as crowds of neighbors tried to attack him. The police confiscated his wheelchair and his dog. There's a second part to this. Melanie, you're so smart. Oh, no. But something's... Oh, Spirit. I'm sorry. You know what it is? Okay, I get the information. I make the informed decisions. Maybe my informed decisions might not match other people's views, but sometimes... Oh, you see what? Oh my God! I'm telling you, this is a weird weird story. It gets worse. Let me bring up the next slide because there's more to the story. So now the guy is being taken out on the gurney. The neighbors start to attack him, and now the police have to try to get him in the car. So Irish was charged with criminal possession of a weapon and menacing after police said he threatened a man who identified him as the Strauss house where William's body was found. Irish is ambulatory and can walk, but he chooses to use the wheelchair to get around. So he's actually able to walk around, but instead he stays in a wheelchair. Several people told that Williams was friends with the man who used a wheelchair, Tommy Mina, a friend of the victim. They spent a lot of time together, and he said that Irish could be abusive. Police said that Irish is the prime suspect in Williams' murder and that the investigators were at the apartment on Tuesday collecting evidence. An angry mob of neighbors tried to pummel the person of interest in the homicide of the woman who was found stuffed in a sleeping bag as he was being taken into custody in Monday in heart-pounding video. Now, you can actually see the video of them beating him up. So there's the video of him dragging her body around town, and there's a video of them trying to beat him up. Dozens of locals, including the 31-year-old victim's distraught mother, swarmed the 55-year-old the moment he was brought outside the Strauss house on a stretcher. It appears that one man at least landed one punch while others attempted to carry out their own version of street justice. The man was handcuffed to the stretcher, taken away in an ambulance, and later questioned by detectives in the connection to her death. So now I'm going to do one more slide. This is him in the stretcher. Now remember, even though he used a motorized wheelchair, he could still walk. He just chose to use the motorized wheelchair. So they're taking him out in the stretcher. The neighbors here are all trying to beat him up and everything. And then this is a video, which you could actually see the entire video. Oh, oops, sorry. That's the next story. Sorry. This is the video right here of him actually dragging the body around. That black bag, she's in there dead with a shotgun. So, mob justice, exactly. So now, I know we're going to hear more of the story. This just happened last night. So,
my question is, how is this guy going to get how is he going to get a fair trial?
Good question. Yeah, because basically they do it within your area, and it's a jury of your peers. How is he going to get a fair trial when people are already accusing him that, yeah, he's on a video dragging her dead body through the streets in his wheelchair?
Just devil's advocate. This is not me saying that he shouldn't have been pummeled or anything like that, which, I mean, those people were also breaking laws. But this whole case is messed up.
Yeah. And like I said, you can see the video of all this. In fact, the picture on the right of him in the wheelchair, that is an exclusive, I think ABC News or whatever it is, CBS News. I'm sorry, CBS. They're highlighting it and showing it. It's like going viral on YouTube, going viral on TikTok. So you can actually see him dragging it around. And then there is a video as well of them trying to punch him and beat him up as they're taking him out of the stretcher. So, yeah, they could change they probably are going to have to change the venue with this. But yes, the level of injustice is beyond comprehension. I mean, I was done with my notes, but when I saw this was yesterday. Yeah, this just happened. He was just arrested yesterday. So that's why I said that's how new this story is. So obviously we have to say innocent till proven guilty. As of right now, he is only being charged with concealment of a body because that's all that they can charge him with. He's not being charged as of right now with the murder yet. They're in the apartment, like literally as we speak, gathering evidence to see what else that they can charge him. But just the fact that he was around town dragging her dead body in the garbage bag with the wheelchair, that's concealment of a body. So you will definitely hear more of this case. This just happened. It's like fresh in the news. It already is going viral. So we wanted to talk about it for a minute.
I mean, they haven't even had time to do an autopsy yet.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, she has a gunshot wound to her head, but they don't know. I mean, there's a very real chance. I'm not going. There's
you
a very
didn't
real
disclose
chance.
that part.
Oh, I didn't say that there was a gunshot wound in her head.
If you did, I missed it.
Oh, okay. I thought I said it when I was reading it. There was a gunshot wound in her head. But there's a very real chance that maybe he wasn't the one that shot her. We don't know. Maybe he just had.
Then
I
why
mean,
is he moving the body?
maybe. Okay, this is just. I'm just not making accusations. Just throwing. Maybe she shot herself, and he's
Again, why do you move the body?
because he doesn't know what to do with it. I mean, who knows? I don't know. I mean, but the case is he probably. I mean, I'm gonna assume. Why do you move the? I don't know why you move the body. Some people are rational. Who knows what they're doing? Somebody comes over and like kills themselves. You
But
don't move the body,
she was covered up with a sleeping bag and then put into a trash bag.
and then dragged around town. Yeah,
So isn't that a sign of like
mental illness,
shame
possibly. Yeah.
that you know the victim?
I'm going to say it is my belief based on just what I see. He probably did it. That's my belief. But you know something, innocent until proven guilty. We do not know. What about the person who owns the scooter related to the well, that is the person. The person on that scooter is the guy that they arrested. If I'm reading that right.
I thought he borrowed the wheelchair scooter thing from his friend. I thought that's what they said.
Did I read that wrong? Okay, hold on.
Yeah,
I'm
the
sorry.
story's just beginning.
Story just begun.
This is probably going to be in the media for a good while.
Yeah. This no, I think the friends was just saying okay, he's ambulatory, he can
So he was
walk, but he chooses to use the wheelchair instead to get around the city.
right. It's the next paragraph that threw me.
Okay, several pieces that Williams was friend with a man who used a wheelchair. Tommy Mina said they spent a lot of time together. The man who used a wheelchair. You're right, that does sound confusing. Oh no, I'm sorry. Williams is the victim. Williams was friends with a man who used a wheelchair.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
Irish is the guy that's the suspect. Williams is the victim. So
All right.
Williams was friends with a man who used the wheelchair. So what they're basically saying is Williams was friends with him. That's what they're saying. Okay. I'm sorry. We read it a little wrong.
So the victim was friends with the guy in the wheelchair, and that
Yes.
turned disastrous.
That's what it sounds like. And the fact is, yeah, he's able to walk. He's fully capable of walking, yet he decides to use a wheelchair, which that makes it even the story weirder. Yeah, I know it's a little confusing, but like I said, you're gonna hear more about this story. This just happened yesterday, so you're gonna hear. I guarantee this will be in the news for the next couple of days. Particularly since I mean it's such a weird story that a guy is walking around with a dead body in a duffel, in a camping bag, garbage bag, tent, whatever, sleeping bag. I can't talk today. I
That's the
totally can't.
word.
Yeah, sleeping bag, like camping tent, round thing.
What are we playing? Word association?
Just whatever word comes out of my mouth. It's a verbal vomit of word salad. It's been a long week. Can I just say it's been a long week? Okay, I think I
It
have
looks like we have 2 more cases.
I have 2 more stories. This is sad that I even have 2 more stories. I don't want any more stories. All right. This one. Okay. So police are on the lookout for this woman right here with the purple hair because this is what happened. Church's Chicken. An employee was killed after an argument with a drive-through customer. A dispute between a customer and a fast food worker in the West Tennessee escalated into a tragic incident on Monday night when the customer allegedly shot and killed a female employee following an argument. Upon arrival, police discovered a female victim who had sustained at least one gunshot wound. She was promptly taken to the hospital for treatment, but unfortunately succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced dead. The victim was on duty at the establishment when the woman in an SUV entered the drive-thru, engaged in a dispute with the employee. The specific details of the argument between the two individuals have not been disclosed at this time. And at this time, they did not even release the victim's name and age. They're not being released. So that usually means that A, either the family wasn't notified yet, or B, potentially that victim could be a minor. That's usually what that means, because it says the victim's name and age were not. So it is possible that it might have been a minor. We don't know. Wait. I'm sorry. I was reading. I didn't see your question. So has anything happened in your lives to spur the fractured justice discussion, or is this true crime driven? Okay. Do you want to answer that? Because you are the brains behind this. Are you?
Do I have anything in my past? Well, there are some instances of fractured justice in my past, yes. And I'm not sure that I should actually talk about them here, but that's not what inspired me to do these kinds of shows. I originally was just interested in true crime, and I wanted to do an experiment to see what would happen if I made true crime shorts every day, just to see if I would get anyone to notice them, to spread that awareness. And it did. And people liked it, but these kinds of cases also, they affect your mental health the further you delve into them, especially when you're making videos on a daily basis. So I stopped for a while, and I was going to use the channel for something else, but we came back to it thanks to
Now,
my co-host.
I will say this. Now, I obviously have multiple YouTube channels. It took me 3 years just to get my one channel monetized. When he did his true crime short, in less than a month and 2 months, in less than 2 months, he was able to get the necessary subscriber count. Yeah, just blame it. No, seriously, blame it on me. He was able to get the necessary subscriber count. What he's lacking right now in order to get this channel monetized is he's lacking in watch hours. So in other words, he has the people, he's just lacking the watch hours in order to make this a thing. So now let's take from my perspective. I am twofold. One, I love researching things. I love learning about things. I love doing research, exploring. I especially love shock value. And that's just me. That's my personality. I say I like shock value. That's one of the reasons why I do my conspiracy theories. That's another reason why I do mental health. That's the reason why I do, because for me, I like the whole controversial aspect of things. Now, when he was doing the true crimes, I said, you know something, we should just get together and actually do this, talk about it. Because I've been wanting to do talk shows. I'm the little instigator. I know, I'm the instigator. I really am. But I love doing talk shows. And yes, I'm going away from the auction aspects. I'll admit that. But I want to explore more on talk shows, on podcasts, on different things. So this is actually a collaboration between the two of us that we are experimenting. A, do we make a good team? Because the fact is we are complete opposite. We really are. We're different spectrums on political standpoints, on point of view standpoints. He's very exact, to the point, evidence-based. Me, I'm the conspiracy theory, outlandish So it makes it a very interesting dynamic. And this is a new thing. We're only on episode 3. So I believe hopefully it's bringing out his confidence in, and me, I'm just getting the thrill of it because I get to shock people with, hey, this is what I. So it's an interesting journey for the two of us. Eventually, hopefully, maybe this will take off. Maybe it won't. But for the time being, it's working on. It's working on. Oh, he'll be right back. It's not your fault. He'll be right back. He does that instead of just shutting off his camera. He takes himself off the the thing for. But that's okay. So he'll see you in just 1 second. And no, Spirit Junkie, I'm glad that eventually what we're hoping is that this would be an open dialogue where there'll be a lot of people that will be discussing this stuff. Because honestly, I would love to hear everybody's opinions about each of these stories. I mean, okay, maybe I get a little too enthusiastic on them. Maybe because you also have to remember, and this is how you have to look at it. I'm actually the one doing the research on this. So what happens is I do the research, we bring the stories together, and then we tweak them and we talk about it, and then we bring them to you. So yes, I might be talking a little bit. Oh no, I'm glad you're participating. We absolutely want you to participate. That's what we want. We want people to participate. I'm hoping, like I said, to get more and more people. The show is brand new, and like I said, he doesn't have enough social media connection. That's why I'm trying to. I put it on my channel. The only thing I'm not doing is I'm not streaming it on my channel at the same time because I want him to get all the credit for it. I don't want to get the credit for it. We're building up his channel. I already have a channel that's built up, so anything that I put on my channel is going to get credit for it anyway. That's just the way I feel. That's why my channel is starting to be more stories, music videos, that kind of thing. So no, I absolutely. We're glad that you're participating. I just would love to see, because I will say this, whether he wants to hear it or not, he is so talented. Sean is amazingly smart. He's a genius, and working with him has been amazing. But it's just at the same time, we are so completely opposite from our views that alone could be an amazing, interesting dialogue.
Thank you for the flattery. I apologize for dipping for a moment. One of my fur kids made a mess.
Your little fur babies. I mean, okay, I will say this, and I'm not going to say it because we already said we're not going to do this, but heaven help us if we ever do a political show. That's all I have to say.
No. Refuse.
That's all I have to say. But that's what makes it special. And that's what it is. It's a collaboration between the two of us. We're both completely different in our ways, but we come together to bring different perspectives. And we're hoping that this could be a type of show that other people can give their perspectives, because each of these stories affects so many people. And the fact that there's going to be more and more true crime events, there's going to be more. I mean, like I said, I would love the week where I get to come to you and say, guess what? Nothing happened this week. Let's talk about past stories. But that's not going to be the case. It's going to be that every week I'm going to have an up to the minute case for you guys. I'm just going to say, because of my limited time in true crime, but go get the true crime chats. Let them see you. We're trying to do that. We are. Build connections by being there.
I have joined a lot of the groups for that. I just haven't spent a lot of time talking to the people.
Yeah, this is Spirit. You're at like the baby blossoming. Like, do I even say that, baby blossom? I don't know what I'm saying. You're at the beginning of this. Like, we're hoping that towards that it'll grow. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, this is baby's first steps for me. My anxiety kind of keeps me from doing a lot of things like this. Not that I don't have the schooling and skills and whatnot.
And he's the one that's been teaching me on my channel. That's why I'm starting to get a little more fancy with my videos and stuff like that. So see, look what she said. She says, be active. They'll get to know you. You're very articulate.
Thank you.
He's also the rational person, and I'm the irrational one. I'll shut up. You are.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. So, thank
Not
you,
about the
Spirit.
genius thing, but about the other part.
What did she said? I didn't tell you to jump on other channel panels yet. That's okay. He's gonna. You know what's gonna happen? He's gonna explode. He'll get tired of me. I'm like, I don't need her. I'm already.
I'll just go back to production and direction. I don't need to be in the spotlight.
We enjoy you in the spotlight. You're doing so well, and this is going to be a good thing. And like I said, Spirit, this is building his confidence. It really is. One little step at a time. I'm so used to. I could talk all night long. I just enjoy doing it. I want to focus on him a little bit.
But yes, if anyone ever wants to join us for the show to give their opinions, we may do something like that at some point.
Yes, Spirit. I shared it on my community page, and I also share it on my Facebook page. I shared it in a couple of groups as well. But like I said, they still got to get used to the fact that it's on his channel and not my channel. So that's what makes it a little different. We're trying to build it up where he gets more of a consistent audience base, because his audience base was strictly from his shorts, from the true crime shorts. Which, like I said, it was amazing that he reached that many followers in a short time. I was so impressed with that. We're on same time Wednesday every week. So Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central. So
This
it'll
is
be
our longest episode so far.
Yes, it is. We passed the 2-hour mark, and we still have one more story left. We have one more story left after this one. But eventually, maybe depending on what direction this could go, maybe I could convince him to do more.
I don't know.
Could you actually deal with me even more?
Well, we have this, and we also have the project for Fridays, so that's a lot.
Yeah. Spirit, I don't know if you... Oh, no, that's fine. You can chat with us. We're enjoying this. I do not know if you're aware of it. He is also the one that does Maledictus horror podcasts. So every Friday, we've been releasing an original story. Our very first episode is not an original. We ended up doing The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe, which he read. That was his reading. So every Friday, we're taking an original horror story that we create. It's he writes it. It's a joint effort with the help of some programs. But we write these stories and then we verbally read them, and they're usually anywhere between like 20 minutes to 35 minutes long. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So this, okay.
We do just horror narration. I haven't gotten into like interesting introductions for the stories or things like that yet, because I'm just not there.
And he has an amazing voice. I keep telling him he's a much better reader than I am with stories. You are. Your voice is great when you read the stories. Yeah.
Well, if anyone actually listens to it, then they'll be able to tell me that too. But thank you.
Yeah. I know, I guess so.
Those are actually on this channel as well. She makes little videos for them for me.
I meant to ask you, I don't have my Spotify connection anymore. Put the platforms you stream on. The Spotify, you don't need to be a member in order to listen to it. I realized that because you could go in and listen to it. But there's a couple other. What I do is I do videos. I'm 1 week behind, so I have to do last week's video and put that. But what I do is after it's on Spotify, I take the video and put it in, I take the audio and put it to a video, so this way you could see some moving images to it. That just takes me a little bit extra longer to do. And this week was a little busy because it was a busy week, so I wasn't able to do as much as I wanted.
She's very creative.
The only reason I am is because guess who taught me?
I still wrestle with her on video editing because she uses software that simplifies things a lot more than I like.
He wants me to use like the really hard to use. You know what? I eventually do need to use the very professional type ones. I use the easy shortcut ones just because it's like, oh, I can actually get it done.
What she doesn't realize is she can get it done either way. It's just doing it the way I'm trying to show her will help build her skills more rather than relying on the software to do it. But the fact that she's able to do it is great. And
before I met him, I wasn't able to do any of it at all. I didn't even comprehend that it can be done. Yeah, the stuff that I couldn't even think that it can be done. Let her grow into it. Oh, thank you. I am though. He's teaching me. So
she's learned a lot, and it's interesting to watch her grow.
You go get chat. Listen to what you wrote. There we go. You go get active in the chat, young man. You need to chat it up.
Socialization. My kryptonite.
Yeah, he does not like socializing. I'm a little social butterfly, and he just doesn't like socializing.
I leave that to her. But you're probably right. It would help.
Oh, what's going to happen to us? What is seriously? I'm sorry. All right. Should we get to the final story? I think we got to get.
If you stop laughing, we can, because it's not a happy story.
Sorry, I know. I'm sorry. I'm blushing. I'm blushing for. Sorry. Yeah, seriousness. Okay. Last story of the night. It is called social media, but he's improving on that. He is. All right. So in this case, this just happened Monday night, so it's still fresh in the news. They have yet to catch this person, but this is the person. They have the incident on film. So that is the one. It's on film where she was in the drive-thru. She gets out of her car. She's fighting with the drive-thru worker, gets back in the car. The drive-thru worker at Church's says, oh, I'm going to go outside for a minute, goes outside for whatever reason, and then this one comes around, loops around again, and shoots her. So, like they said, the victim's name and age are not being released. Now, one or two reasons. Usually it's either the family wasn't notified yet of the incident, or it's a minor. That's generally why they don't do it. Or it could be because it just happened. That may be, but I would think they know who the person is because she's being killed at her job. So they have the information of who she is. It's not like they can't not identify the victim.
So this is gonna age me again, this episode, okay. But
yes.
Whatever happened to two people solving their problems with fisticuffs? Why do guns have to get involved in this stuff?
I think this has to do with social distancing as well, because people do not know how to talk to each other anymore. Guns, you don't have to be up in somebody's face. You don't have to, and it's just an easy way to threaten somebody.
Well, this is another case of a lot of bad choices on both sides. Like, why even go out there? Why?
Sorry, I didn't hear. I don't know if you heard the train. That's why I muted myself.
You're just escalating the situation by going out there. Why would you do that?
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen this happen. There's, I shouldn't even say this is funny, but there were a lot of videos on like TikTok and YouTube where fast food workers are going crazy with the people at the drive-thru, or the people in the drive-thru are going crazy. And I mean, they'll be fighting over not having like chicken nuggets or something, or that their order is wrong. They'll throw food at people. It can get really dangerous working in fast food. And particularly if you're one of those overnight type fast food places that are open 24 hours, well, certain types of people are going to be visiting you overnight. I mean, I shouldn't say that, but you know what I mean. They might be under the influence of certain drugs or alcohol or other stuff. So it could be, it is a dangerous situation. You're not safe at your job anymore. So,
well, if you've looked at any of the other shorts that I've put on this channel, then you know that people haven't been safe at their jobs for a long time. Because there's cases where multiple murders have occurred inside of workplaces. It's bad.
on a corporate level, this is just something that I think is horrific and interesting at the same time. And a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of companies will take out insurance policies on their employees. And in return, they will give the employees a free insurance policy. So I'm just saying this because I had this when I was working in corporate banking. What they did was they gave me a $20,000 free burial insurance policy if anything should happen to me while I was employed with that company. But at the same time, even though they're giving me 20,000, they're actually the ones that are the owner of the insurance policy. So by me signing, yes, I want this free insurance policy on my part, they're the ones that are paying the insurance company. They would be getting like whatever, like $200,000 for my death just for being an employee. So, I mean, you could say that that's disgusting.
Gross.
Corporate greed. That's exactly what it is. But on one end, it's like, okay, well, I'm getting, my family will be covered because now I have an insurance policy that I don't have to pay into. But at the same time, they're the ones that are paying it. They're the ones that are footing the bill. They're getting X amount of money for my death. So.
But
you worked midnight as a late teen. You shouldn't lose your mind over. Absolutely. But here's the question, Spirit. Be honest. How many crazy customers did you get at midnight? I know you had to see some of the craziest customers. Well, customers are crazy any time of night, anytime during the day. But I mean, particular at night, you have to have some weird stories working in drive-thru.
I do, having worked drive-thru, and I also have to admit that because I ran into so many weird people, I didn't always pay the most attention to them. And one customer came in and asked for basically our first aid kit. And I looked at her and asked her why. Because I was so just embroiled in the job that I wasn't paying attention to her as a person. And she was bleeding from the face, and it did not register in my brain because I was dealing with people in the drive-through lane. I was working both registers at the same time. And that's bad on me, but when you run into weird people like that late, it's just, I don't know, it's awkward.
I think in any job that I've had, because I've worked so many like different types of jobs, because I was crazy. I always had multiple jobs. Don't ask me why. But the people that I've seen, I can write books upon books upon books about the crazy things that I've had. I mean, I used to do that as a daily thing. At the end of the day that I worked in retail, I would write a crazy day in retail and have long Facebook posts of all the crazy things that happened to me that day in retail. And now that they keep coming up on my Facebook feed, I'm like, that actually happened to me. Like it's a horror that I went through some of the stuff that I went through. And it was a daily thing, and it shut me down mentally and emotionally because it's like, oh, it's just another day in Crazyland. This is what happened to me today. And in some cases, it was violent. It was horrific. Sometimes it was, and to me, it was just another day at work, another day. Spirit says it was rare back in the 80s, mostly creepy guys, non-violent. I'm wondering if Like,
It was probably had something to do with your location too, though.
yeah.
For me, I was 20 miles outside of Detroit, so violence there was meh.
And me, I was in New York, so yeah, I mean, I say more. It's just the fact that I'm in New York. I think that's all I had to say. Yeah. So, but I mean, I
Sorry you had
almost,
to deal with creepy guys, so
yeah, I almost want to say working in that type of environment, it does desensitize you to things because you see it all the time. It happens every day. Like a crazy incident is just going to happen another day.
it still
So
makes me feel bad though because I I didn't see that she was hurt, and as someone who's trained in first aid and things like that, I should have reacted better. But instead, because I see so many people's faces every day, or I did during that period of time, didn't even register.
I think if anything that taught me with what's going on and particularly the stories is now run. Don't even bother confronting anybody. Don't even bother. Just if anything happens, just get out of there. It's not worth it. Sometimes you can't, but I mean that's the attitude that I'm taking now. It's things are not worth it anymore.
You ready for our last case?
Our last case. Okay, I completely forgot. Oh, this one's a horrific one. All right, guys,
Mhm.
we're ending on a bad note, so I'm sorry about that. But the very last case. Now, every week, another story like this has been coming out, and I know multitasking is test switching, not really doing more at one time. You were human. Yeah, and like I said, even at work, you're so focused on the job that you you can't have emotions. You just have to be a workaholic. You got to focus on the job. So, all right. So this particular story is another transgender story. Um, I almost want to say it's sad that we're having another one each and every week. So this one's horrific. So dismembered body of transgender high school student, age 14 years old, was found in the Pennsylvania reservoir. The Pennsylvania coroner says that body parts were discovered in and around the lake in the western part of the state all belonged to the teenagers. Friends and family reported that 14-year-old Paulie Likens went missing on June 25th, 3 days after she'd been last seen leaving a friend's house to go home. The same day the Sharon Police Department began their search, officers were alerted that they discovered body parts belonging to an unknown person in and around the Shenango River Reservoir. On July 3rd, the Mercer County coroner finally identified the remains as those of Likens. Police have arrested 29-year-old Deshaun Watkins and charged him with murder. Watkins allegedly met Likens through the popular dating app Grindr, according to the criminal complaint filed in Mercer County, obtained by. Now, that's a picture of the 14-year-old victim. Now, let me go to the next slide. The complaint alleges that Likens and Watkins met around 3 a.m. on June 23rd at a canoe slip of the city of Sharon, located a few miles west of the state border of Ohio. According to the complaint, surveillance footage captures Watkins leaving his apartment with a large duffel bag that appeared to be empty prior to meeting. Surveillance footage then captured him carrying the now full bag when he returned to the apartment. Oh, I'm sorry, struggling to carry the now full bag. The following day, surveillance footage captured him leaving the apartment with the bags throughout the day, according to the complaint. The complaint says that police were able to obtain a search warrant based on the footage and discovered traces of blood throughout the apartment on July 2nd, one day before his arrest. He's now being held at the Mercer County Jail without bond. He's facing charges in first-degree murder, aggravated assault, attempts to cause serious bodily injury with extreme indifference, abuse of a corpse, and tampering with evidence. He's yet to enter a plea and does not have a lawyer at this time. In multiple interviews, the district attorney says he will not be pursuing a hate crime against Watkins, the 29-year-old man who, according to the complaint, allegedly had sexual relationships with the 14-year-old murder victim.
Disgusting.
Okay, so this is just horrific on multiple ends. So now, the first issue is the age difference. So you have a 29-year-old and you have a 14-year-old. So that right there, you can list statutory, all that stuff. I mean, it's the age difference is a problem. Now,
that's predatory.
Yeah, finding on Grindr. I mean, this is a sick story. The fact that there was pieces, and he's going in and out of the apartment with the bag. So that means, okay, I'm going to just make an obvious conclusion. That means he's chopping her up in the apartment and then bringing her out piece by pieces in the bags.
Mm-hmm.
That's safe to assume that, being that they
That's
have it
implied.
on. Implied, yeah. It's implied. And being that they have this on camera showing the bag empty, the bag full, the bag empty. Now, the only thing that I'm a little confused with reading was, did he have the bag before he initially, like, what was this complete? Because it says
yes,
he went out with the bag empty.
The bag empty before you met with her.
So this was completely premeditated and planned
in
advance. It wasn't like an accident happened, or it might have thought that maybe he didn't realize that transgender, but it says that they were in a sexual relationship to begin with. So, because
she may have still been alive while stuffed into the bag originally. It's unclear.
Yeah.
Because bringing the person back to your home to do the dirty work is weird.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, that's going to take a long time, but
there's a lot going in this story. And that's what makes it confusing, because this all happened at the canoe place, but then that's what it is. He's dragging her back to the apartment and then back and forth. So there are a lot of holes in this this case.
I'm wondering if there's other cases, because this almost seems like it would be a serial thing.
Possibly. And the fact that he's using the Grindr app, which, okay, is generally a known hookup site app. I'll say it that way nicely. It's a hookup site. You're going to hook up with people, and yeah.
Isn't it for same-sex hookups? Or am I wrong with that?
It can be, yes. So I mean, yeah. So one of the questions to the prosecutor was, are they also classifying this as a hate crime? And the reason that they're not doing it as a hate crime is because, according to what they were having sexual relationships with each other. I was thinking, I wonder if this was the first time. See, that's what doesn't make sense. At first, I thought this was the first time because, okay, just to run a scenario, they meet up the first time, didn't realize that transgender, maybe found something that he didn't. That could have been a possibility. But then they're saying that they had sexual relationships. So it's I think there's a lot of levels to this story. I agree with you, Spirit. But I thought that this was the first time they're meeting. But then they're not doing it as a hate crime because of their relationship with each other. So they've probably already met multiple times already. So the question is, why this time was there?
I don't know if they met multiple times. All it said is that they had relations. So one would assume that was while she was still alive. Although I believe it said that they had proof of their conversations, not of an actual relationship.
Okay. Yeah, could this be a repeated pattern by a perpetrator? I mean, the fact alone is he's 29. The age difference. That this shouldn't have been a relationship to begin with. Was he upset that not a RE? I'm not too sure. Well, that's what if I'm reading it correctly, Spirit. Okay, thank you. Yes, that's the question that I had. We both had, because that, I mean, okay, the crying game. If
I
anybody saw
had
the whole,
questions about that as well, but
yeah.
my understanding was that Grindr was for men to meet other men. I could be completely off base with my understanding of that social media platform. And I am 100% happy if I am. Because if you want to just say, okay, boomer on me, I'm cool with it. Because I admit I don't know enough about some of this stuff. Because it doesn't apply to me. I don't know.
I'm going to read directly from the Grindr website. Grindr is the world's #1 free dating app serving the LGBTQ community. If you're a gay, bi, trans, queer, or even just curious, it's the best way to meet people for friendship, hookups, and dates. Okay. So because that's why I said I know people who met on Grindr who weren't necessarily homosexual, or so. It's an open site, but I know Grindr to be definitely a sexual hookup one. However you decide to hook up, but I thought it was for cheaters, non-committed flings. But I would agree, Spirit. It's definitely a site to hook up with somebody for sexual relationships. Yeah,
But I mean, that's going to just go down a whole other conversation, because most dating nowadays is hookups.
I'm going to disagree with that. There are people.
Okay.
There are people who are genuinely on dating sites for companionship.
That's a different type of dating site, though.
Oh no, okay.
That's like your eHarmony type thing. That's not your Grindr type thing.
Well, no, Grindr is definitely for sexual hookups. That is no question about it. You want sex, and you go to Grindr. It's yeah. But we don't know. I mean, like I said, the fact that this is only a 14-year-old girl and this happened, that's what makes it tragic. So,
aren't those things age gated?
They're supposed to be, but you know how easy it is to lie about ages.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's
so sad.
I mean, okay. I'm gonna give my opinion. You guys could just disagree with it. I really believe that with adult sites, you would need to have proof of your age. I think adult sites should have where you scan like your driver's license or something like that. I know that opens up the door to so many bad things, but and yes, I know anybody could steal somebody else's ID and all that other stuff, but I do believe that there should be an extra level of security with how old somebody is, other than just checking a box that says, "Yeah, I'm 21 years old."
Well, in a lot of cases, I'm going to agree with you that certain things like that should be in place so that people can't, well, catfish each other and whatnot as well.
Oh, that's a whole nother story.
Mm-hmm.
Catfishing. For those who don't know, catfishing, it's basically lying about your entire persona and pretending you're somebody different, look different, whatever, and you're lying to that person online. And then either you're actually going to finally meet or you never meet. Who knows? But there's a whole MTV series on catfishing, which is
That there's scammers that do this sort of thing. There's all types of bad people that use these apps. And There's nothing to protect people.
Spirit says she's 143 years old.
Wow.
Go, Spirit!
You're very spry for your age. I'll give you that.
Did I have an extra page, or that was... I have one more page on this, right?
You
I
do.
read that already. I read that. No, I read this already. Yeah. Yeah, because I went back to show the picture.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that I'm not trying to talk politics, but you're going to see a lot more focus on cases involving transgender, cases involving illegal migrants, and cases involving mass shootings. And this always happens during an election year. If you look historically back at how, whether it's actual crimes committed or just what is being covered. Thank you. What is being covered? You're going to see an uptick in these type of coverage during this year. So I guarantee.
It also depends on which information silo you belong to, as what information you'll get to see, because different outlets are going to report different things.
Mm-hmm. And me, I have no. I'm going to say no straight affiliation. I look at all the news sources. Like, no matter what political affiliation you are, no matter what, my sources are all out there. And then that's why he was teasing about the Bro Bible. I'm like, yeah, I was looking at the Bro Bible. He's like, really? I'm not taking.
Really?
Yes.
Forgive me if I don't take their word for it.
But it was a legitimate story. It was just the Bro Bible.
It was.
Yes.
And it was just something that they rehashed from another site.
Right. So we went back to the original source. We got the correct information. It's just like I said, sometimes my sources are a little out there. So I get the map. I find the way to Normalville instead of being so far out there, and we get to report genuine stories to you. It seems like the relaxing of social norms went too far for some people. Now people are violently saying, I'm taking up arms to get you to do what I think is right. Absolutely. I mean, look at what's happening during protest. And I'm saying this loosely because it's any protest. Protesting has now become extremely violent. It doesn't matter what you're protesting. No matter what protesting is violent. I used to go to protests all the time. Now I will refuse to go to any protest because I know that it can turn violent. But yes, believe it or not, in my 20s, I was a protester. I would go to protests in New York.
That's interesting. I didn't know that.
You didn't know that?
Mm-mm.
You know what I should show him something that he probably won't believe. But I should show you what happened during the protesting of the Republican National Convention. I'm not saying anything. So anyway, you're right. No one has the right to physically harm anyone. The problem is it's as if reasoning and morals get thrown out the window. And can I say this? I'm going to say this. People eating tasty animals, yes, but not people. But no, I was never a member of PETA. But if you say people eating tasty animals, yes. He's like, no.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
I made a joke too. She's like, don't answer. I didn't answer. People eating tasty animals.
Enough.
I'm sorry. No, but I honestly will not protest anymore because I've seen too much violence that happens during them. And I would never do that again. And plus, I'm too old. I'm getting too old. I can't. I'm getting too old. However, I will say this though, in New York, they got if nobody's ever been in like an actual full scale protest, I will tell you right off the bat, they hand you cards with that you keep on that tells you everything to say to the police immediately. It tells you right on the card, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to say, this is the number you need to call, and they hand it right out off the bat. And it's just it's interesting how they organize it, how quickly it spreads, what opinions are being viewed, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, I almost wish I saved my protest cards.
So, were you a professional protester?
No, I just did it for the I told you
Okay.
I like
Well, there
controversy.
are people who get paid to
Oh,
do that.
absolutely. Yeah, there's people that get paid to do that, which I almost disagree with that. I mean, I know that's wrong. I feel like if you're going to protest something, actually believe in what you're protesting. Don't just do it as a paid person. Does
Sure,
that make
but that's
sense?
any job.
That's true. That's true. You rationalize it. It's true. That is any job. So yes, there are. A rebel rouse. I don't like to think that I'm a rebel. I guess I am a rebel rouse. Would you consider me a rebel rouser?
I'm not gonna comment here.
No comment. Okay, no comment. All right. No,
I plead the fifth.
we're getting in so much trouble this episode. But I will say this though. The whole purpose of this show, like I said, is we are exploring the horrific crimes of what happens. Our justice system is fractured in some cases. In some cases, it's swift. It's so we try to bring an array of different cases. Sometimes the cases are. He even says, "How is that true crime?" But yeah, I throw it in there just as because you know something. If all we ever did was report nothing but murders and atrocities. I mean, okay, I thought the guy with the fathering 1,000 children is funny, but that is actually a crime. He is being it's against the law for him to donate to the sperm bank. So yes, that might be an out of the ordinary type crime, but crimes can be in any theme, any
I tried to
genre.
get us robbery on this episode, but it didn't make the cut.
Wait, you gave me a robbery story?
Uh-huh.
Okay, I'll leave it for next week. I didn't see the robbery story.
It's okay.
Aw, he had a story. Okay, no, we'll save it for next week.
Assuming that it makes the cut next week. Please, oh please, people, stop committing these crimes so we can.
Like I said, I want that to be a week where I say, guess what, everybody? There's no new stories. However, let's talk about this from past stories that we could talk about. Because, like I said, even in this story, we brought up 3 cases that were from the past. Absolutely, yes. Do you think the internet has sped up and brought in the breadth of info spread or more atrocious acts? Yes.
Yes, on
And
both counts.
I will say this. I am a huge TikTok person. I love the speed at which things you can see his face right now. I love the speed at which up to the minute happenings with TikTok occur. However, up to the minute lies also occur as well. And that's could be a very dangerous and gray area if the spread of what they're spreading is a lie versus if the spread of what they're spreading is truth. A lot of times, and I've seen this many, many times, you will hear it on TikTok first. You won't hear it in the mainstream news until the next day or the day after. However, on Facebook or other things, they will fact check you on what you said based on what you heard that one day. Even though it's absolutely true, they will then fact check you, and then you get shut down or you get silenced or put in Facebook jail or anything like that because you're spreading false information. Meantime, it's actually been true. It just didn't hit the mainstream media yet. It was behind the scenes. And that's what happens is I follow a lot of the behind the scenes things up to the minute. And I have to be careful because sometimes I could be spreading false. That's why one of the things that we both do is we check these stories to make sure, okay, it's on this channel, it's on this. Here's videos, here's the proof. So we try to do that to make sure that the stories we bring you are as accurate as possible. But even with stories like this, as new information comes in, things could change. I know the doggies are barking for you. They're like, woof, woof.
But yes, it's important that we have access to the ability to put this information out instantaneously, especially in countries where certain subjects aren't allowed to be talked about. Certain news would be controlled by the governments, for example. But at the same time, people are sometimes committing these more atrocious acts because they can become internet famous.
Mm-hmm. There is a case. If I don't even know if I can bring this up or not, but when he mentioned about certain countries, this is an actual case that happened last week, and if you want, I could cite it as well. But it was a public execution of a teenager because in North Korea, that teenager was listening to K-pop music and was spreading K-pop to the country. Because that particular country, they are not allowed to listen to K-pop music, and they're not allowed to be influenced by Western culture. So, as an act of reinforcing their laws, they executed this teenager in a public execution. So there's talks about that. There's videos circulating around that and stuff like that.
That's terrible.
It's absolutely terrible. I'm robotic. My internet's going
for a
down.
little bit.
Is my internet going? Okay. Did you guys hear what I said about or?
We heard you.
Okay.
It wasn't the most clear, but I think people will be able to understand what you had to say.
Yeah. And if anybody's wondering what K-pop is, that's simply Korean pop music. So, yeah, I'm sorry, guys. We're in Texas, so sometimes, we're not affected by the hurricane in any way, but the internet.
Our infrastructure is kind of spotty.
But
because privatized.
But in case anybody's wondering, neither one of us is in the path of the hurricane at all. So we're actually extremely lucky. So
that's true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a little rain like 2 days ago, but that was it. It was nothing. All right, so we're almost hitting 3 hours. This is impressive. All right. So as you guys know, we do this every Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put a bow on this, tie it up a nice little bow. We do this every Wednesday. So obviously we'll be here next Wednesday. Like I said, I hope that there's not more atrocities, but we will see what happens this week and what happens in the world. I try to bring a mixture of stories, and it's also making my fascination with learning and exploring and finding out things. So I'm getting stuff out of this as well. He gets to learn to be more social. Did I say that? I can't say that. No, I can't say that.
You can say
it. Can you stream Friday to Spirit? What we do is on the Friday show is it's not a live stream because they're pre-recorded stories. I then go in and create a YouTube video on YouTube with like visuals and stuff like that to reinforce the story. I only have it for the first 2 episodes. So we're going to be doing episode 4. So I still need to do episode 3, and 4 is going to be, or are we on 5, right? Episode 4
We're going to be on 5.
We're on 5. Okay, so I'm 2 behind. You know what it is things changed this week. I had to move a little bit, so it's been a little crazy for me. So I have to update the 3 episodes then. So yes, it's it's the story mode. It's the horror story, which now we're switching off each week. He'll read one, I read one, and it'll be switched back and forth. But they're original stories, so you get to see a little bit about how.
You get to see how my brain works when I write weird stuff. Sorry about that. And I get a lot of questions from her like, why are there so many stories about children? Like, because they're innocent.
Hold on. You're not the only one writing these crazy stories. How many stories am I writing and giving to you? So we're both.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. So we're both writing scary stories, and then we swap them, we fix them, we give our input, and then we present it to you in a scary way. And not only that, I still do my 4-sentence horror stories, so they're little shorts. But what you're going to see more of is I'm going to start doing shorts on true crime. So like when we do these episodes, I'm going to, not this actual, but I'm going to just retell the story in a minute or less. So you'll start seeing some more minute or less videos on true crime as I get these up to the minute stories on what's been happening.
Can you tell a story in under a minute?
Yeah, I'm getting good at it. I know. I don't do it. I'm getting better at it. Oh, jeez.
Thank you guys for watching.
You can see that the way we are, whatever. We're like a whatever. I'm not even gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. We make a good team. Opposites attract. Both on the opposite spectrum of opinions and all that other stuff. But you know something? We are here and we're reporting it to you guys.
We appreciate you for being here.
Look at that, he went, woo! Everyone, have a great banter is perfect, you two. Oh, see, I told you we need to have that crazy because Spirit, I will tell you right now, when we get into those intellectual debates, his views versus my views.
Yeah, but it doesn't always stay friendly because I'm a jerk.
He's mean.
My tolerance level for certain things isn't as high as it should be. And I'm like, you what?
And when I say something that's so far out there,
you believe what now? Okay.
See, it's like a muscle. The more you practice, the better you'll be. We got to practice.
Some things I don't want to practice.
We got to practice yelling at each other. He's like, I don't want to practice that. Oh. But more importantly, okay. You know, I shouldn't say this, but Spirit, I have to thank you because
thank you so much.
I had a really bad week. It was a bad week for me. So the fact that I am smiling, and I shouldn't be smiling. I'm not trying to smile, but I'm saying is I want to thank you because with the support of you being in the channel watching this, I know we had some other people pop in and out. They really didn't comment, but that's fine. We appreciate that. We do have people that watch the show after the fact, but we will keep bringing you stories every week, and anything that I find, I will present it because it's also a demographic that sometimes people don't get a chance to see these stories that are actually happening. Oh, my people, oh, thank you. But you know something? I'll be back tomorrow with Des, and we're doing cryptids. So if you want to know about cryptids and like weird creatures, that's what we're doing tomorrow. I didn't even post that. I got to post it. But I will be back tomorrow night. Yay. It's been lonely without me. Oh, I appreciate that. All right. So let's wrap this up. we are wrapping up episode 3 of Fractured Justice. And we hope everybody has a great night. Take care. Tune in on Friday for our Maledictus podcast, where we're going to do a horror story. And have a great night. Take care, everyone.
Take care. Thank you.